Meeting come to order. Welcome to the microphones on, everybody. Okay. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Nevada Irrigation Board of Directors, February 11th, 2026, not 1926. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Madam Secretary, you call the roll, please.
Yes, Division 1.
Here.
Division 2.
Here.
Division 3.
Here.
Division 4.
Here.
Division 5.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just one note of housekeeping. We're going to switch the workshops, bring the water rate study up first. For those that are here for that. Okay, with that, we'll have public comment on any item not on today's agenda. If you're watching on Zoom, participating on Zoom, or want to comment this morning on items not on the agenda, please do so now. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the consent agenda. I have two comments.
I'll second.
Okay, moved in second. You said you had a comment or a
Yeah,
question?
just quickly. On 3B, I just want to compliment the hard work to get the agenda, the working agreements and grant money with CAL FIRE.
Mm-hmm.
Great job. And then 3E, glad to see this is going on where we're going to take account for sedimentation in Rollins and see what the options are. Also good.
Absolutely. Any other?
I'll chime in a comment on 3B. Yeah, excited to see the project, and that was useful to be able to walk that and see the real need for that clearing on that. So excited to see that we are moving forward with CAL FIRE on the defensible space on that canal.
The pictures were good too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was useful, but I have a question about maintenance. Are there maintenance provisions in that grant?
No, the grant only covers the original clearing. It doesn't
That's pretty
include.
typical of most of these
Yeah.
clearing projects. I wish that CAL FIRE would acknowledge that maintenance of these projects is as useful as the initial clearing. Historically, and not in this agency, but I've seen it especially at the county level. We finish these big projects and we all give ourselves high fives and attaboys. And then 3 years later, you can't tell that any work was done. So, and that's a CAL FIRE thing, and that's not an NID thing, but maintenance is useful on these projects.
Earl.
Quick question, I guess, is that what are we doing with all the biomass that's going to be generated from this? Are we chipping it in place or are we?
There's no biomass that we're creating out of this. So we can take some, if we try to take some to the biomass facility, we will. We're determining whether or not there's any merchantable sale. We can sell some logs if we can. Other than that, I think we're just particularly going to be maybe burning it, /pile burning it as well.
14-inch DBA and small.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does DBA stand for?
Diameter breast high. I just, we went, Brad and I went to a PCWA NID thing, and they talked about the big biomass center that they're putting up there for PCWA is. And I just was wondering, I know that there's not much money in it, but if it helps clear our forests or generates an area that we can put biomass, I don't know.
Yeah, we have an agreement with a biomass facility down in Rio Bravo.
Rio Bravo.
And so we have taken biomass to them in the past. It's just really a matter of price and what we can get and how much it costs to haul.
Right, the trucking's
All about freight.
We probably had a big discussion about this before you were on the board, just before you were on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So no one mentioned using Secrettown headquarters as a future biomass facility?
No one's mentioned that.
Okay, just bringing it up there for a discussion if we ever got to that.
These are terribly costly.
We're getting a little far afield.
Yeah, I know. Can we continue?
Okay, so
Clarifications on the consent agenda. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Raise your hand on Zoom or seeing none. Madam Secretary, you call the roll, please.
Yes. Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we will take up the workshop for the water rate study. Who's gonna,
All right, I'll kick it off and invite Eric to come on up. You can sit by Greg. Eric is our consultant from Bardo Wells. He's been working with us for the past year to develop the water rate model. And he's going to provide a presentation regarding the proposals that are before the board. The purpose of this workshop is to obtain input from the board on any additional information you'd like to see, how you'd possibly like the rates to be adjusted. So within the model, there really are just a few big levers the board can pull to modify the rates, whether that be higher or lower. And the biggest one is going to be the capital program. So what we have built for the board is two scenarios with a lower capital program, one with a higher capital program. Staff is recommending that great consideration be given to the lower capital program, just because that would be our minimum base that we do feel is necessary to ensure we're continuing to invest in our infrastructure. But we've also proposed a higher capital program, which is essentially just a greater dollar program. One other thing to take into consideration is that these rates are also designed to rely on some reserves. So those are funds that we have been essentially saving over, the past 5 years, more than that, as well as debt issuance. So it is common for large infrastructure projects, for districts or public agencies to issue debt to fund those. We do currently have some debt that is still on the books that is costs the district about $4 million annually in debt service payments. There is a limitation on how much debt you can issue. You do have to have a coverage ratio to be able to substantiate that you can afford any debt that you're issuing. So there are some things we can take a look at. But what I would recommend for this first kind of workshop is that take it more informational, ask questions, and please jump in as we're going, because it is a lot of information. So whether it's the public or the board, please interrupt us at any time if you have any questions.
So the $4 million annual debt for how many more years?
Oh gosh, there's three different schedules. Yeah, they're between 5 and 7 years.
What is the interest rate we're paying on that debt?
Oh, they're all different. It's not very
figured.
high, though.
On an average, are they real high?
No.
Oh, okay. I remember they were.
I want to say it's about 4%.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then how much would, so we'll find out how much reserves we'll have to use up.
Yes, so we do
Versus equal.
discuss the reserve fluctuating levels as through the 5-year rate period. So if you recall under Prop 218, we're only setting a 5-year rate period. But when we do all of our analysis, we do a 10-year lookout. And the purpose of that is so that there's not big swings in rates at the end of the 5-year term going into the next term. So we also do some smoothing of rates so our customers aren't experiencing massive volatility year to year in rates. So it's somewhat, it's all based on math, but there is some art in it, in the smoothing, looking at debt service. So moving forward, once rates are adopted, whatever those may be by the board, remember that actual debt issuance, actual reserves used is based off of a kind of a set of different conditions, right? It's how is the investment market looking at the time? What's the interest rate on debt issuance? Those types of things. So this is intended to provide information related to establishing a 5-year rate period that is compliant with Proposition 218. Does anyone have any questions before we? Yes.
Yeah, I see that you're going to get to it and report at 4% inflation per year.
Yeah, we put a 4%
And
escalation clause in.
I don't find that, well, historically, that's not what it's been the last 7 years, 6 years. And historically, I just don't, I
I think it's too low.
Yeah, I think it is. I think past performance is not indicative of future results, but
And that is something, the board so desired to be more conservative in that particular assumption, then we can, increase the escalation clause. And when we come back at the next rate workshop, which will be February 24th, we are holding it in Placer County. We can make that adjustment as well.
So you have been using a 6% number for the past
Yeah,
several years,
it's-
right?
Correct. We are trying to be conservative. We can go back to 6%.
I'm a little more comfortable with the larger amount and also the fact that we haven't raised rates in 4 years.
Are we gonna get to any of this in the
Yeah, we will.
presentation?
Get to all.
will.
Oh, yeah, it's all there.
I don't think we're getting off at all. I just,
Workshop. You can do whatever you want to.
what I'm hearing, that's right. Thank you, Mr. President. Point of order.
God,
Um,
don't tell him he can do whatever he
Well,
wants.
okay, I'll rephrase it. I'm talking.
No, it's just, the one question is I'm looking for us to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, me
not
too.
behind it.
Yep, me too.
So we'll take all this input and then as there are a few decision points as we move through, but with that as a board place of input the board collectively agrees on, then we can all highlight all of those as we're going and we'll kind of get the head nods on, okay, the board would like to see 6% or whatever it is.
So my question concerns the 218 process and the CIP proposals. What's my question? We can justify the bigger number to
Yeah.
satisfy 218.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So how far can that go, right? That's my question. Yeah.
Well, it has to be reasonable, right? And so then
Well,
also
reasonable is-
when you're discussing capital, a lot of times, well, there will be two limitations that will essentially price you out of going higher and higher and higher. One is your available reserves and your ability to issue what amount of debt you can
Service to debt.
issue. Yeah. You have to have a debt service coverage ratio in order to substantiate to the bond underwriters that you can meet the debt, as well as when you are issuing debt, part of the underwriting conditions is that the ratepayers that amount of debt service is able to be covered by the ratepayers and to substantiate that through your rate study. But there's also a question as to how much capital can an entity actually deliver in any given year.
All right.
And having been in this business a long time, I will tell you that there does become a maximum amount of projects that entities able to deliver without just completely ramping up staff. So, with the high capital project scenario, that is the max of what we can deliver. And that would be pushing it and would likely maybe need one or two engineers,
Massaging.
more consultant resources.
Do you have a current figure,
For what?
capital improvements without expanding staff?
That's
What that is.
what these are.
That is.
That's what okay.
Yeah, that's what's in the high and the low.
I have a
So that is what it is.
Director,
But that the high scenario, as well as some of the low scenarios, would result in needing some consultant services. For example, Scott's Flat, we rely heavily. It's a huge plan set, a lot of design. We rely heavily on third-party consultants to assist with that project.
I have a question. Really simply, is there actionable items within our presentation today? Or are we simply just receiving it and then giving direction?
We're giving direction. There are a few policy points I would really like to receive some input from the board. If we have general consensus on these policy points, then we will implement the policy points and bring it back at the next meeting. So the next two workshops are really to receive input from the board and input from the public. Then we start a more formal process of actually voting.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
hey,
I have a question if I could.
go ahead. It's a workshop.
Okay. Follow up on Rich, if we're looking at the application of a 4%, 6%, whatever inflation rate, inflation out there is judged in many different ways without, energy, with energy, housing, et cetera, et cetera. How would we look at it here? Because that inflation rate that we're applying here is going to apply to purchasing of capital improvement project materials, of employee costs and healthcare costs, et cetera. Is that the type of inflation we're looking at Or are we looking at a different type of inflation?
So we look at it in two different perspectives. So or three actually, from the perspective of the rate model, we're just essentially applying a flat 4% escalation factor across all items. But when we start looking at the 5-year capital program where we're actually planning for real projects, we're escalating those costs based off of the ENR, which is more of a engineering construction index. So we don't necessarily look at like the San Francisco Bay non-energy CPI index. We're just applying more flat rates because they're all over the board. So
Mhm.
remember, this is a model. So the numbers in the model are inherently not going to be reflect daily actuals.
Got it.
Welcome.
That welcome.
Thank you for having me. All right, well, should I jump?
I think you should. So Eric is the model guru. He's going to provide the presentation. As we're moving through, please jump in and ask questions and we'll try to get those answered. And if there's something we can't answer, we will work on it in the interim between now and the next workshop.
And that applies to the public and those who are in attendance. Just jump in anytime with questions.
Eric, I think this is already,
What's that?
what's the name of the company? I see it's BW, but I didn't.
Bartle Wells.
Okay, I think that was said earlier and I didn't catch it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem. Yes, and so my name is Eric Helgeson. I'm a principal with Bartle Wells Associates, and we've been working on the rate study, as Jennifer said, for a little over a year. And so thanks again for having me. And I'll jump in here. So I'm going to first just give a high level overview of kind of the objectives and process of the rate study. Talk about the key regulation, Prop 218, that drives a lot of how we approach it. Go into the financial projections and assumptions that we are talking about, and then move into rate structure modifications and proposed rates in this current iteration for this first workshop, and then move into next steps and more discussion. So the objectives of the rate study are to, one, ensure that there's sufficient revenue for what the district needs to accomplish. Revenues need to be sufficient to pay for all the operating costs, debt service, and make sure that there's enough for infrastructure repair and replacement and new investment. Rates also need to be legally compliant. I'll talk about that when I go into a little more on Prop 218. And the objective is to really aim for incremental, predictable increases over time.
Have you worked with another district that has aging infrastructure like we do?
Yes. Most districts have, especially more established districts, have quite a bit of aging infrastructure. Some, I think the biggest example is a couple that have even had a few wood pipes they've had to replace.
So this is not new to you.
No.
But it does increase our costs quite a bit.
It does, and it's you do have the benefit of having the existing infrastructure, and you're not having to do it all at once. So it is expensive, and it's important to not neglect it. But it is a significant cost, but it's not if you continue on the path of kind of doing it, you can be less impactful at a given time.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things that really drive our rates and drive any agency's rates, and it's really the amount of infrastructure per the number of ratepayers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the process for the rate study is to gather, do a number of data requests, gather all of the information on customer number, use, basically anything that drives a rate, and then also all of the financial data, and bring that together and develop a 10-year financial plan, where we identify the amount of revenue that needs to be recovered from ratepayers to kind of make everything work. And then the next step is we allocate that rate revenue based on how what drives costs in the system. And then we apply that proportionality to the revenue requirement and then turn that into rates. So the goal is to make rates be proportional to the benefit provided. And finally, at the end of the process, we have the 218 process. I will say with cost allocation for this district, there's some key points are, raw versus treated, and then looking at what costs benefit all customers versus inside customers versus outside customers.
Yeah, just so everyone recalls, so we have inside district, outside district. Outside district are those that are outside of our jurisdictional boundary, which does include all those little islands.
Prop 218 has two components. There's a procedural component, which dictates how the steps you must take in order to have rates adopted and approved. Essentially, the maximum rate that the district can adopt has to be mailed out and noticed to ratepayers at least 45 days before the district holds a public hearing. We are also looking at and at the public hearing, if a majority of property owners, 50% plus one, do submit written protests, then the rates that are noticed cannot go forward. And you have to go back to the drawing board and re-examine rates. We're also looking at potentially going with the AB. There was a new process that could add a few more weeks to the 218 process. It's an administrative exhaustion process that reduces some of the risk and allows ratepayers to get responses to their protests, and then so that adds a little bit of time. But the substantive component of the 218 process, there are two key points. Rates cannot exceed the cost of service, and then rates must be proportionate to the benefit provided. So that's essentially driving the whole cost of service process and the model we build to develop the rates.
Let me interject here. So I want to talk about the administrative exhaustion.
Yeah.
This is an optional.
That is a new thing, right?
New thing. So just by way of a little bit of background, over the last 10 years or so, Prop 218 lawsuits it's been a really active area of California law, and it primarily driven by the plaintiff bar sensing a business opportunity, I think. A disgruntled customer or a plaintiff bar would find a disgruntled customer, and this litigation could happen 2-3 years later after the rates went into effect. And the customer may or not have even participated in the Proposition 218 process, and yet they were able to challenge years later. Some of the cases even became class actions. So it resulted in potentially multi-million dollars being returned to customers due to errors that weren't even brought to the attention of the public agency. So the legislature has sensed that there's a problem here. We need to address it. So there's actually two optional legal procedures. We're recommending both. The first is really an absolute no-brainer. It's a statute of limitations period of 120 days. So if there were to be litigation, we would know within 120 days of a change in rates. All you need to do in order to implement that is to put it prominently in your notice once that goes public. So we're recommending that, and there's really no downside to doing it. The second, as Eric mentioned, is this administrative exhaustion procedure. What that tries to get at is the surprise that somebody has a legal objection to your rates and they never communicate it to NID or the public agency changing rates. We're also recommending this, but it does, in addition to changing your timeline, in my view, it creates a bit of a communication challenge with customers. because you'll have this interim written objection deadline, and then you'll have a later written protest deadline. We'll talk about this more later on in the, the specific timeline later on in the presentation. So we'll circle back to this. But there will be a point, if indeed the board agrees with our recommendation, where that written objection deadline comes. We then have an opportunity and an obligation to review those. And if somebody has a really compelling argument that we have not considered, we can potentially change course, right? We have the opportunity to do that now. Alternatively, if they're raising an argument, and I've seen this in other situations, it's really a policy argument, not a legal objection. Folks don't like having higher rates, and folks are having a hard time paying other bills, and so it's more of a policy objection, not a legal objection. So we acknowledge that we've received that written objection, but there's no legal reason given to change course. So in any event, there will be that deadline. We then, as a team, have a chance to review that. We would develop written responses and present those to you as board members for consideration. So it changes the deadline, which we'll talk about more later, but it also is a bit of a communication challenge with customers because they have these two deadlines. And what's an objection? What's a protest? So, but it's all manageable, and we think it's worth pursuing. So we're recommending it.
Listen, and you might get this. Is there a way to marry those two deadlines? You can't. Okay.
Because we have to provide written responses. So you need time to do that. You just can't do it on the fly.
All right. And I will also add, and Dustin, you can add if, I think the current environment is kind of clear as mud with multiple appeals court rulings that are contradicting each other and that are, so it depends on which district you're in right now is what, so it's kind of a murky area. And so our recommendations are trying to be reasonable and conservative to kind of avoid that for this district. So the water utility is a financially self-supporting enterprise providing service to over 20,000 treated customers, 5,500 raw water customers, and rates are the main source of revenue. And given that that's the case, rates need to be set at a level that's adequate to fund capital projects, operating and maintaining the system, and meeting your debt service obligations.
I have a question.
Yes.
About that. So when you say that we are financially self-supporting, that's true. But I'm wondering, Jen, if you can speak to, or someone can speak to, in the event either one of these rate structures is adopted, does that allow us to then have our recreation program be financially self-supporting?
No. So the recreation rates are set by the board through separate action.
Yes.
They have historically, I don't know if they have ever not been subsidized by the ratepayers. So remember, recreation is a requirement or associated with running the hydropower projects. And just the state of recreation generally is that it's runs in a deficit. The board has taken significant steps over the past 5 years or so to increase those rates. So that has helped, but we are still running in a deficit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So as we went forward, we looked at two different capital improvement scenarios. One higher scenario, which is about $140 million of capital over the next 5 years, and a lower scenario, which has about $88 million of capital over the next 5 years. Raw water infrastructure is one of the key components, and in the higher scenario, there's additional treated infrastructure. One of the other key differentiating factors was the amount of kind of ongoing maintenance and projects that was also included in the scenario. So with these two scenarios kind of drive looking at rate recommendations and financial plan and overall rate revenue increase outcomes for both scenarios. So talked about the capital, and there's the district has significant needs for maintaining and upgrading the system. Debt service for both scenarios. The district hasn't raised rates for several years, and so the district will need debt funding for either scenario. So we're looking at 115 million in the first scenario and 74 million in the lower scenario, which comes out to the difference between about 8 million or 5 million per year in annual debt service at the end of the 5-year period.
And is it in addition to the 4 million, or is?
That's in addition to the current.
It's additional.
Yeah. Although some of that, your current debt will fall off.
That does mature before then, but we would also likely do a refunding of some of the existing debt to take advantage of more advantageous interest rates if we do a large debt issuance. But all of those kind of questions get answered at the time we're ready.
Could you repeat those numbers again? The debt numbers and the interest?
Yeah,
Right
it's
there, right there.
That's right there.
Had 'em last night.
Yeah, so it was under scenario 1, 115 million annual debt service is about 8 million. That's in addition to the 4 million we're already paying, but that does, some of it comes out in the middle. And debt funding under low capital scenario was about 5 million a year.
New debt.
And so my question is, what do we get for the $88 million and what do we get for the 139?
The big difference is, so what is largely driving our rates during this initial 5-year period are two large projects. One is related to hydropower and the Chicago Park Rewind and some of that larger work that needs to be done. And remember, we have a ton of dam safety work coming up. And then the second item is related to Scotts Flat Spillway. So we talked about that at the last meeting. But just to give you a sense of what some of the major differences are. So for example, in the highest scenario, we're looking at about between 5.5 and 4 million a year
Like it.
in treated pipeline replacement. And
Could you say it again?
Yes.
yeah, no one was listening, were they?
Oh, no.
Well, Rich had a problem over there at that end of the.
We got distracted.
Greg, infrastructure.
Yeah.
Crutch didn't hear,
But
but
he was throwing stuff.
I know, I thought he was too.
Okay, so the big differences are for the high capital scenario, we are proposing an amount of treated water placement that is equal to between 4 and 5.5 million each year. So if you'll recall some time ago when we did the 5-year capital program presentation, we had determined that we wanted to see how much money the district would need to be investing in replacing treated water pipelines to reasonably keep up with the infrastructure as it ages. So we took a life cycle of 100 years and we applied it to every mile of pipeline. And then we did a calculation to determine if we were going to replace every mile of pipeline within a 100-year time period, how much money should we be spending per year? Well, that's about $6 to $7 million. But the caveat to that calculation is it did not take into account that most of the treated water pipelines are already 60 years old. So it's already, even at spending $6 to $7 million a year, you're still already behind. So the high scenario takes that kind of fundamental theory of the 5.7 to 4.5 million a year replacement treated water pipeline. And the low scenario is more between, this depends on the projects, but it's a lot lower. It could be anywhere from 2 to 4 million a year.
Same thing for
Yep.
pipe replacement.
Mm-hmm. The other one that
we
is,
have a list of those or that's in.
pardon?
We have a list of those pipelines or is that?
Some projects, so where we do have specific projects identified, we have adjusted the flat treated water replacement line item with an actual project. So say we have an actual project that is $2 million. then we would have reduced that 6 million total to 4 million to take into account that there's a project. If there is no specific project identified, it's just held in that more generalized line item.
And treated water customers would pay a bigger share of that?
Yeah, so the way that the rates are set up, and this is consistent with the requirements underneath Proposition 218, is that essentially treated water has to pay for all treated water costs. One customer class cannot legally subsidize another customer class. Our customer classes are essentially split into two major in-district ones. That's raw and treated. So for the application of raw water, there's so treated water, they pay their fair share apportionment of the raw water costs. That's based off of how much water they're using. And then all of their treated water costs. Raw water is paying for just their raw water costs. With the application of the hydropower revenues, the way the district has historically applied those revenues is that hydropower pays for the operation of not just the power facilities themselves, but the movement of water and that infrastructure related to the movement of water in the upper division. So raw water also gets that large benefit associated with all of that hydropower water revenue going to those paying for the operation and replacement of that infrastructure.
And as noticed the past couple of years that it isn't just the subsidy, the money subsidy, it's the infrastructure subsidy of the upper division.
Yeah, it's just application of how hydro pays for the upper division. Yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So the difference between the higher CIP and the lower CIP scenarios is, 51 million. Is that, is that, can we say, well, if we do the lower, we're not going to do A, B, and C? I mean, is it that clear of a nexus?
Yeah, to an extent. So we essentially, one of the large.
It's like, what are we not going to get if we choose the lower?
Yeah, so
That's
you're not
another
gonna get
kind
as
of.
much treated water main replacement. You're not going to get as much money set aside for the South Yuba Canal. You're not going to get as much money to replace PRVs or pressure reducing valves that was originally slated for.
How about the BEP?
The BEP, the question of the BEP.
Say again what the BEP is.
Backbone
Oh my
extension
gosh, I
project, it's
forgot,
richest friend.
I apologize.
So
Sorry.
there is money slated in the
Like it.
study, especially going out for the full 10 years, for either replacement of the Lake Wildwood treatment plant or for construction of the BEP. So if you recall, construction of the BEP would actually allow for treated water to be delivered through a pipeline from Elizabeth George down to Lake Wildwood. So the question that we have struggled with or wrestled with in the past is what is more economically feasible for our ratepayers? Is it to build the BEP, get rid of the wastewater or the Wildwood treatment plant, or is it to redo the treatment plant? We believe that with some of the ability to utilize capacity fees for the construction of the BEP, that in the long run, the BEP likely will be more feasible. But either one of those projects, we did include money in the rate study. So what
You did or didn't?
we did.
You did, that's what I
So
thought.
we are looking at right now is kind of doing more of a Band-Aid approach to keeping the Lake Wildwood plant moving until such time we can make this final decision about the BEP. But so we currently have a lot of money slated in years 2032 and 2033 for either the BEP or the treatment plant upgrade.
Because one or the other has to happen.
One or the other
Has to happen. So the question then is, in the higher scenario, that includes the money we're talking about, either BEP or Wildwood treatment in some form. Lower scenario, does it include just a tiny little bit?
No,
for
it's the
Band-Aid, or
same.
it's the same?
There's
Okay.
many items that are the same in both the high and the low scenario.
Okay.
The big items that are different is the amount of, we could go one by one on projects. I would not recommend we do that.
No, that's,
Well, it's really getting in the weeds on projects that
Right.
are kind of get shuffled around. But the large items are
we get lunch if we do that.
No, we get dinner.
So I have a question before you dive into and I'm interrupting, but I have a question that I think is pertinent. We used to have a finance committee where some members of the board, and maybe the president, would point some people out, where board would have an opportunity to work with staff on some of these into the weeds projects and review some of this stuff. Because I think, for me at least, some of this is new stuff and it's very useful, but we're not gonna have the ability to go through all these line items. And we can hit the high items, and that is useful, but I just like the idea of being able to get a deeper look.
Me too.
Don't we do that when we go over the 5-year CIP?
We did. We went.
Yeah,
over
we
the
did.
five
And each line item, we did that.
line by line.
Yeah.
So that's where that really comes into play. I think one of the challenges with the finance committee, which is fine, but it only gives 2 people the opportunity.
Right, and then
They
they
were
would
still
report
going,
back, right.
they're still
That's why we
going
switched-
back through the
That's
same
why we
thing. to the
switched
other
to
3.
workshops.
Mhm, That's right.
So when we did workshop the 5-year
Yeah, we
capital,
did.
we've done it twice now, where we did move into the weeds through each and every project.
Mhm.
My question on that same subject then is the 5-year CIP that we have in place covered by the low scenario?
Yes, for the most part. We might have shifted things years.
Yeah, and that shifting we can always shift. Things happen as we go along.
Yeah. So also remember, this is a 5-year rate, a 10-year model. We're making a whole lot of assumptions on what needs to be repaired, when it's going to go to construction, when it will be ready, when environmental permitting will be completed. So in actual time, there may be projects that bump any of these in priority in any given year. So this is not the end all say all we build to this list. We collect money to support the completion of this list, but as things break or permits aren't obtained or easements aren't secured or property is not secured, or as the board changes direction, the delivery of the actual capital gets modified. And in fact, the delivery of the annual capital program gets modified every year. So, don't get too hung up on the shifting one year to another, because it's always shifting.
But also as inflation fluctuates, it's gonna change what we can and cannot do.
Yes, so there has been a significant increase in the cost of construction. And so very, very large projects have been just skyrocketing. That can shift the amount of capital that we are actually able to deliver in any given year.
Got it.
Any other questions?
Well, there will be, but.
On this topic before we move on.
Welcome.
Okay.
It's great.
So I do have one. and we talked briefly, just one. And that was South Yuba Canal.
What the difference is?
That,
Are you asking what the difference is?
Yeah.
Let me look.
Is there a difference?
There is a difference.
So how much reserve do we want for the South Yuba Canal?
That's right.
Mhm.
Okay, hold on. I should have printed this larger.
How critical?
Chip, do you see it?
Can you perhaps crosswalk this better as part of the next workshop? Maybe you could provide you know what I'm talking about? The key differences.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, we can cross it to the next workshop. So.
Well,
We're
yeah.
gonna workshop this again, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna workshop it again, but I don't know if so we have set the 5-year. We'll highlight the large ones.
Mhm.
It gets to be a lot of shifting. I just
I
can't.
think it's really important for us to understand the difference between the higher and low and what we're not going to get in general if we do the low versus what we will receive or do
And also,
with the higher.
Exactly.
our financial costs may be lower today.
Well, exactly.
5 years.
Yeah. So, those are all those different
So it's the difference between the high and the low, specifically for the South Houston
canal.
and most of the flumes, is about 4.5 to 2.5 million
4.5 to 2.5
We're
per year
currently
or
at
for
two
the-
and a half.
per year.
We're currently at 2.5 now.
No, we are not. We're spending about, I don't know, 1.1, around 750 to 1 million.
We talked about 2 million for a while there.
Yeah, the South Yuba Canal South Yuba Canal, the amount of repair or replacement that can be done in any given year is also limited by the allowable outage periods.
Mhm. Weather,
Yeah, it's how much work can you get done in outage?
right.
Okay, that's
Right.
We're done with our questions
For now.
for now.
Those are great questions, and it's also a good segue into, as we develop these models, we're looking at 10 years into the future. As Jennifer said, nothing will be exactly as we project it will, but we're trying to develop basically reasonable baseline amounts that will be a reasonable average outcome over the period. So with our inflation assumption, we use 4% because there are spikes, but we're looking at over a 10-year period, the average outcome. And we can absolutely go back and look at having a more conservative projection. Historically, it's been below 3. Like some agencies, 3.5 is even somewhat considered somewhat conservative for a long-term projection. So we're trying to be conservative, but also balance it with not having it be the main driver of the rate increases as well.
Well, that was my question. So you're saying we're looking forward for 10 years and we're choosing a number of 4%. If we would look backwards for the last, say, 10 or 15 years, are you saying that it's only been 3%? Because I think it's been greater than that, has it not? Or
It was during.
Some items.
some have been,
Yeah.
but then there were some items that were like 20%.
Also remember, some items don't show based off of, if you did an analysis of our actuals based by category,
Mhm.
some items don't show significant increase because we hold the budget tight, right? So
Right.
we'll cut the budget in order to hold it.
Mhm.
Some items like insurance, gas, those kind of things we can't hold. Staffing, there, escalations. built in for
Medical, I mean,
staffing.
there's, those,
Medical can raise by less or more. So we
Yeah.
I think the driving factor in why we chose 4% is exactly what Eric just said, so that it's not controlling the rates. But if the board is uncomfortable with 4%, we do kind of see around more like 6%. We can come
Mhm.
up with a scenario that has a higher escalation factor. It's just going to raise the proposed increases.
understood. But, we also want to be real
Mhm.
and not fall behind, which is what has happened to us in the past. That's all. I just want to sort of balance
Option would be for us to come back with maybe
some other scenarios, like 4.5, 5.
5%.
Right.
So
I'm
I
interested in that.
most people just look at inflation as the cost of goods, but I also include government overreach and regulation.
Sort of applying a factor
Oh,
to
yeah.
that.
The bureaucrat tax.
Yeah, and I think
Mhm.
I think we're more exposed to that than maybe financial inflation.
Well,
But-
so actually, to Rich's point, and I was thinking this, and I was trying to figure out how to articulate it. So when we speak about inflation, we're largely speaking about like consumer price index, but as an agency, we're not. Our inflation is reflective of that, but does not mirror that. Is there a formula that more closely reflects, or how do you balance an agency's costs versus a CPI? Because we're not buying groceries or rent.
That's
The
my question
CPI
earlier.
groceries is not included in it.
Right.
That was my question earlier that I couldn't
It's
articulate.
groceries and gas are not included in
Mhm.
CPI. There is no CPI that necessarily completely pertains to us. They're all have some different methodology of how
Mhm.
they're modified or calculated, and they all are calculated a little bit low. For
Right.
example, the ENR, that's the construction cost index that we usually use, and that has been historically lower than what we see bidding wise. So we take our knowledge of CPI, we take our knowledge of actuals, we kind of start looking at, okay, we've been seeing, and we've just locked in an insurance contract for X amount of years, or we're anticipating these particular increases, or we're seeing this signaling coming down on these things are impact healthcare. And that's how we kind of try to flush it out.
Mhm.
This is the art. This is the art part of it.
This is the gray area art.
And one other important point is that all of these indexes are all looking at the past. So we're
Right.
looking forward, and there's no perfect amount. We look at we're really looking at how we estimate the actual cash expenditures of the district will increase over time. So it's not, looking forward, there's no right answer, and it's just kind of a risk continuum of, based on past performance and what, we think is coming down the road. What's a reasonable factor to use for the district looking forward?
Is it true that, I'm asking, because I don't know, it seems like it is, that if we were to choose whatever, 5%, and it made the rates be X, that in any given year we go, oh, the costs weren't that, da, 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 we could lower the rates temporarily? We would have that flexibility?
Yeah, the board can make an
That's-
action to not.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Has that ever happened in the history of the world?
Nope.
I've seen it happen.
Yes,
Really?
yeah.
As it
That's
happened.
spectacular.
We have a speaker. Would you state your name and go ahead?
My name is Katie Cassini. When we were talking about all this inflation stuff, it just the thought kept popping up, so I thought I would ask. And it kind of sounds like you're alluding to it, but with your considerations for the cost of inflation, we've been talking about the percentage. Do you ever consider the fact that the ratepayers aren't getting an inflation increase in their wages? Because like for NID or other entities, you can always raise your rates based on quote unquote CPI or the inflation, but your typical ratepayer, they're not getting
That benefit, the same benefit.
right. They're not going to their employer and say, hey, we got 4% inflation this year. Can I have a raise? So I'm just wondering if you
Right.
guys would consider that kind of a thing.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't think that drives us.
But that
I
doesn't,
mean, we're
I-
considerate of the ratepayer, definitely. But
It's hard to consider.
our projects are, a lot of stuff we're trying to catch up to should have been done 10 years ago.
Got it. Yeah.
And if we don't do them now,
it's going
Right, it's
to,
gonna be a problem.
yeah,
it'll be
it's
more
going to be a
expensive.
problem.
Most of our large expenditures are somewhat based in some federal or state regulation that we have no control over. So for example, the Scotts Flat Spillway project is a requirement from DSOD, which is the California Division of Dam Safety.
Mhm.
And they're requiring us to replace the complete spillway. Well, we've seen just from natural inflation, impacts from tariffs, increased labor costs, that our cost estimate for that project has more than doubled in a 3-year time period. So there are some things that are just out of our control. We're able or legally allowed to build up reserves, but you have to identify, okay, those are for emergencies. Those are for, what are those for? We're saving for future projects, but we're not allowed to make a profit per se. So we couldn't just arbitrarily say, okay, our ratepayers, their value of their dollars decreased by X over the past 3 years. So we're going to arbitrarily decrease our rates by X to reflect that,
Right.
because we're still having to pay that X, just as we go to the grocery store, nuggets cost $5 more than they did a year ago.
Right.
It's that kind of
nuggets?
So they were not $9.99.
I'm teasing.
They are $15.99 a bag now.
It's a fact.
Fact.
The Costco list. All
It is a fact.
right. Thank you.
Your point is well taken.
Your
That-
comment.
Thank you, yeah.
But that's also, to address, that's also why this is my nugget comment.
You're
This is an
That's
art,
very good.
right? So this is why we talk a lot about what's a reasonable inflation rate. So that's how we kind of settled on 4%.
Right.
A lot of this is we're trying to address all these issues, trying to meet
It's an art.
regulations and not price our ratepayers out.
Right.
So how difficult would it be for Sandra to go back and say, the past 10 years, this was their annual, an average?
Right now, a little complicated because we're in a new system.
Well,
but-
that's my question. How complicated is it?
Well, and also you would have to go back and look at, there's a lot of factors. We
Okay.
can see what we can do. It's definitely around probably 6% a year.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
been seeing gas prices,
That's just,
labor,
Yeah, gas, labor, medical, all of that.
in the reality of how we actually operate is we tighten up our operations to meet budget constraints.
Right.
And your point is well taken. We have to take in consideration the ratepayer. And on the other hand, we have to take in consideration of, are we able to deliver water to you? And I would just say my political bent, it's very difficult to figure out all the bad investments CalPERS makes and then have to make it up. But we have to do that. And we have to have
Yeah, we got.
Some buffer.
that one Big time.
And that is a valid point. One thing that, is a big cost to the district is paying the CalPERS unfunded liability as well as the pension related OPEB.
Yeah.
So I skipped ahead a little bit, and I essentially with rate revenue, you're on a trajectory as costs rise. You're having rates revenue increase, and it's just kind of the slope of the line of that rate revenue changing year to year is what we're looking at. So, with the higher or lower CIP, we're looking at a higher or lower slope. And it's the overall important thing is, as costs have been rising, the district has held rates flat for a number of years and has, as Jennifer said, has been, doing things to tighten the budget and cut costs. But there's a certain point where, costs just push or keep getting higher, and that pressure just can't be contained by making cuts, and you have to make your revenues start keeping pace with those cost drivers. And as we're looking forward, we want the trajectory to be as consistent as possible. That's, so customers can predict what the outcome is going to be. But, if costs rise, you hit a 5-year period, if you're on a lower trajectory, you may need to increase the slope of the line in 5 years if it turns out inflation is higher than we projected. If we're conservative and it turns out inflation was lower or other costs were lower, then maybe the line could be, the slope could be reduced a little bit. So, right now you're at a point where you're kind of having to kind of catch up a bit. So your slope is going to be exceeding inflation. And, hopefully, the goal is to kind of catch up and then bring it down to more inflationary rate increases.
Can I follow up on a question? What we determine here is not static. It's always dynamic. If we raise rates, we have the possibility of people reducing the amount of water they purchase, things of that nature. Do we have a plan or an operation or something, contingency, to use that water if someone goes from 20 inches to 18, and there's extra water there? Do we have, because we have such a demand on the canals and a waiting list, is it going to be taken care of that way? Or is it going to be like the 5% billionaire tax in California, which they're going as fast as they can?
So the actual water deliveries and water rates is a little bit different, right? So we don't send, if I'm selling, so say I have one customer, Earl. I don't send 5 miners inches to you. I send what you're using at the time so that I don't have a lot of tailwater going out. So it's a little bit different with raw water, but that's also why we've made some adjustments to the fixed portion of the rate versus the volumetric portion to shore up against fluctuations in water use, whether it be related to people, lowering the amount of water they're purchasing or to hedge against droughts, because it's the same thing that happens in a drought, especially with treated water. We sell less water, we collect less revenue. So that's why we make that shift to trying to increase more revenue rate in the fixed rate as opposed to the volumetric rate. But in the end of the day, if we made such drastic raises that half of our customers quit, that would essentially send you back into a new rate setting cycle.
We skipped to, did we skip 10?
Page. Yeah,
We did, and I'll go back to that. Yeah, so the two scenarios that we're looking at, are basically looking at different levels of annual rate revenue increases to support the higher capital. One aside to your comment earlier, Director Flower, I would say that there is an element probably in the capital program that is a reflection of the increased regulatory requirements. So I think that's where some of that driver
reflects is in the capital projects. So the first scenario, the higher CIP, is looking at increasing revenues by about 12.5% per year, or beginning at about 3.5 million and increasing to 5.5 million per year in additional rate revenue. The lower CIP scenario starts at 9.5 and drops to 9 in the final year and is increasing revenues by about 2.6 to 3.6 at the final years.
So those are additional increases per year.
Correct.
So in 2026, it'd be 9.5 over, and then 26, and that would be over the new number, over the new number.
Yes.
What is that cumulatively at 23 on both of those
It is
as a percentage?
Cumulatively, it on the lower, it's about 66, and you're looking at moving your total revenue from 20 on the high CIP from 27.5 to $50 million, and on the lower, and that total increase is, I have it up here,
6.5 more.
Mhm.
5 years.
it's about 90% cumulatively over, the current rates that you're paying to the higher, roughly, depending, I mean, there's other factors, water use, meter size, but roughly 90%. And the lower CIP, the lower option is going from 27.5 to about 43 million in the final. So it's about 65 roughly.
Percent.
Yeah, correct.
And in these percentages, both in the 12 and in the 9, those are inclusive of the inflation factor that you use,
Correct.
4%.
Correct.
Okay,
Right,
so,
and remember what those are reflecting. Those are reflecting a percentage increase in rate revenue. Those are
right,
right. So we got to get to the other slides.
you got to
actually
get to
look
the
at
others.
actual rates.
Right. So then my other question is, if we were to choose the lower, the lower CIP model, are we still continuing to fall behind in the cost of providing service? Is our actual cost to provide service greater than the revenue coming in at the lower CIP?
Yeah, well, yeah, you're still using yes, when you take into
We're not covering costs. That's
So because you're issuing debt under both scenarios. And
Yeah.
you're using reserves under both scenarios.
And then how much, the reserves? I think this is such an important piece. I talked to Jennifer about this the other day.
I want to bring that up.
Yeah, it's not like we're only putting this on the back of our ratepayers, which I'm really sensitive to, but that we see the opportunity to use a chunk of these reserves to help buffer that rate. If we didn't use the reserves, oh my God, it would be something off. We couldn't even do it. But so how much in the reserves are we proposing in both scenarios?
So you can see on this table, under both scenarios, we are dipping into reserves. So when you look at 2025, right,
Mm-hmm,
it's like, I think that's 42 million.
mm-hmm.
And then it drops down,
To like 36, 37. I mean, it looks kind of the same to me almost in the higher and lower.
they're just a little bit
A
different.
little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get the product.
You're not getting the product.
Understood,
So
but
the in this bar graph, under the high scenario, you're also issuing significantly more debt in those out years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just think it's an important thing for folks, us and our ratepayers to understand that because of really, frankly, I think very good management, we have been able to assimilate this great amount of reserves. And now we're looking at, okay, now we got to play catch up. So we're going to use some of those reserves, or a big chunk of them actually, to help buffer these rates. It's not like we're putting the whole thing
Oh,
on the
yes.
back of the ratepayer.
You would be seeing significant rate increases if we weren't able to use reserves or issuing debt.
And
So if we didn't have the reserves, that's my
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
And I think, Ricky, you hit on it also, that you've gotten everything out of, I mean, you've saved every dime, nickel, penny.
Squeezed every,
Squeezed it so much. You can't believe how much tighter this operation is than it was 4 years ago.
right.
Yeah, we've been
You've-
saving money. We've adjusted staffing levels. We've squeezed as much as we can squeeze without reducing the ability to provide operations.
So that chart, the graph of the reserves takes a big dip this year, right?
Yeah, so this is showing a big dip in 26. We're gonna see some real big expenditures coming up.
Mhm.
Scott's
Those projects, anyway, what's the dollar amount of those?
Oh, on the table, I don't have, do you have the?
Is it
Oh, the drop in reserves. It's about
eight-
6 million, I
Less than
believe.
10.
It goes down about 6
Yeah,
million.
about 6 million.
The amount of reserves we'll actually use really will be a function of debt issuance, how the market's
Mhm.
looking, how our investments are looking. So that the reality is it could fluctuate a little bit, and the year in which we bid out Scott's Flat.
Mhm.
So one thing that we don't include in the rate study is revenue that may be received from some exterior source.
Right, a grant or.
Right. So
Yeah.
we are always trying to maximize outside funding. And so, you know, Scott's, if we're able to get 20 million of funding for Scott's Flat, that's great. That will significantly impact the amount reserves and or
Mhm.
debt is issued.
And with the amount, and just to explain the charts a little bit, the column represents the total, each column represents the total cost in a year, and it's split into your operating costs, your debt service, and rate funded capital. In both scenarios, we tried to kind of stabilize reserves, partially because, well, a key reason is you also we'll need to issue a significant amount of debt just based on your current position for either scenario, and it's important to have a reasonably healthy reserve for to demonstrate liquidity to rating agencies
Mhm.
that help to help keep your cost
Right.
of debt lower as well. And the key difference that you can see is obviously the green line is the rate revenue, the dotted line is the reserve. So the reserves we try to normalize in both scenarios. The green line in the higher scenario is higher to pay for it, and then the debt service, which is an ongoing, that portion of the bar will stay there for 30 years, and that ends up being quite a bit higher relative to from the high scenario to the low scenario. So that's where the main key difference between the two are, and so rates are going to have to be able to sustain that higher debt service for into the future, and there's less. Whereas in the low scenario, you don't have quite as much of an annual expense, so you have more room to issue debt later or to increase have cash funding down the road. And just to my earlier point, looking at if we expanded it back, your current line has been flat. We're trying to get it back, on a path to keep up with costs and capital. And really, the most important thing is to get the line increasing again. And then, depending on the outcome, you do your 5-year, you don't have to raise up to the full noticed amount. But just getting that trajectory going, and then when you re-examine it in 5 years, then it's if you have higher increases now, then it's more likely you'll need slightly lower increases in the future. But then again, you might have a grant or something else that comes through that also reduces the level of increases you'll need in the future. So it's just the slope now and then the slope in 5 years, and just staying on path to make sure you can support your capital program and your operating costs.
Quick question on here. The reserves on here is what's remaining, not what is being used that year, correct?
Correct. That's your
Right.
Yeah.
From that,
Mhm.
we've gone through a reserve workshop here before. Are these, we've attempted or are doing this to maintain those reserves to comply with all the different pockets that we created for reserves earlier, correct?
Yeah, essentially reserves are related to ensuring you have enough cash flow for annual operating costs.
Mhm.
We always want at least 6 months of cash on hand just for that.
Right.
Then we have reserves for paying for annual capital costs so that you can pay your construction bills, right? And then we have a big chunk of money related to some type of catastrophic event. So South Yuba Canal burns down or something. Where there's a significant amount of reserves is also in hydro related to the FERC relicensing. So this rate study does not take into account a FERC license.
I wondered.
It doesn't because we just still don't have any idea of
Right,
when
right.
it will.
Yeah,
be
we just,
issued.
it's like a dartboard, right?
Now, whether or not we would really utilize the money set aside for the FERC relicensing effort for FERC relicensing things, my recommendation would be more that we don't issue debt to kind of do nickel and dime projects. So we would probably utilize reserves for maybe a larger project. So those are all decisions we make at the time we're making the decision. We're now making projections.
So in the event that we don't need as much money for that FERC relicensing, then we could bring that money out of reserves to do something,
Yeah,
lowering rates or whatever it is in the future, or?
you could. We would have more funds available. So the FERC relicensing, there are two items in the FERC license that inherently impact our finances. One are all of the additional things we need to do, build, right? Campgrounds, fish screens.
4E conditions.
All the 4E conditions. And the second one that is in that FERC license that will impact us is the new in-stream flow requirements that will inherently result in reduced power revenues as well as water sales. So we'll have higher expenditures, lower revenues underneath the new FERC license. And that's why we have been making some effort now to minimize some of those impacts through exploring the exemption for the Deer Creek Powerhouse, exploring the FERC boundary modification, looking at some of the larger 4E conditions and trying to negotiate getting those removed. So we've been really focused in on honing those in.
And my question is a carry on of his about the reserves. He asked sort of my question. The graph shows that it being about 40 million. We have 120 in reserves, right? Is this the amount we're gonna spend? Is this the amount we're gonna keep?
These are water fund reserves.
Yes.
Not the hydro reserves.
Water.
So hydro impacts.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all you need
That
to say.
answers it.
Hydro impacts the water rates to the extent that hydro has enough money to pay for its own capital in the operation of the source water facilities, which are the upper division
I
facilities.
looked at that for quite a while ago.
Because I brought up the FERC reserve.
That's all right, because it makes it clear what.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate it too.
All right. So I guess it's a good segue into the next section, which is looking at, recommended potential modifications to your rate structures and potential rate outcomes. This just kind of shows a high level of potable or treated water use over the last 4 years. Fairly consistent, and single family is by far the largest component of your treated water consumption. So looking at the recommendations for your potable water rates, the most significant recommendation we have is to move from the two-tiered rates that you have now to a single volumetric, single uniform rate. The main, two significant reasons for that. One, with all of the uncertainty with it just is one less thing to potentially have someone target. And two, it does reduce administrative burdens, and it's more straightforward and easy for people to understand. You're paying more for what you use, but it's just a single cost. Every unit of water, you pay this amount. So our recommendation is just to move to that uniform rate structure for water service. The other recommendations we had were also to allocate, and this is a proportionality option, but to allocate property tax to only the inside district customers that pay the tax.
Pay it, right?
Correct. And then also the source of supply cost to allocate that cost to outside district users as well. So the outside district, as they were saying, the source of supply is covered through hydro revenues for the most part, but to allocate the source supply portion to the outside district customers from instead of have it be covered by hydro.
So this is a little bit of a difference, right? So now our ratepayers and property taxpayers will be getting the benefit of property tax as well as the hydropower revenue, which does, and this is a point of policy decision for the board, which does significantly increase outside district users that we do not get
Right.
property tax from.
Your property tax from.
Nor do they own the hydropower system.
Right.
I thought we charged
Well, we do.
outside district higher rates.
But it wasn't based off of math. It was based off of a kicker. This is more math based.
Okay. And then example. I mean,
What do you mean?
right now, well, I mean,
City of Grass
example
Valley.
where it would change.
It would be the city of Grass Valley, city of Nevada City raw water purchases that they both make, as well as all of the raw water and treated water customers that are technically outside the district. So those are the donut island people.
And so then that would benefit for them to come into the district.
Yeah, then they would get the benefit.
Yeah.
Well, and then we would be receiving a portion of their tax revenue.
Exactly.
So
That's been the hang up.
it has.
Getting that to
Yeah.
happen, yeah.
I mean, there's a big push right now by a lot of other districts to change that ad valorem tax distribution,
it's not
but
gonna
There's always a push by people.
There's always a push, and then the county says no.
yeah, it's just enough money coming back from the state.
On your two-tier modification here, I appreciate you guys looking at it from the regulatory legal standpoint to eliminate additional costs that come down the road. Is this something that has been targeted by other lawsuits?
Yeah, City of Lincoln, we went through a massive tiered water rate lawsuit.
And we've looked at every other potential reasonable option to also take care of in this study, so we don't have any other handles, as they call them.
I think we've looked at what we can do. I mean, government revenues are always a target, so there's only so much you can do to. But I think what we've tried to do is just make it as defensible and have math kind of support all the decisions that we recommend to make everything as defensible and streamlined as possible.
Yeah, the main thing is that, right, you're not, one customer class is not subsidizing another
Right.
customer class, that you have math that substantiates everything. One reason why the tiered structure always makes me nervous, and there are ways to have math behind it, but it's complicated math built off of a lot of assumptions, right? So I have been through a huge Prop 218 lawsuit, unfortunately, before related to tiered water rates. I'm comfortable with the math. We've been chewing this up for over a year now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and your costs have to justify the difference in the tiers. And for some districts, that's very difficult to do. Because, think of yourself as buying from a wholesaler. If a high user customer requires you to go buy more water from a wholesaler, that's a very traceable cost, right? That's expensive water. It's not, you count for it, distribute it to the high water user customer. That's more difficult in an agency like NID, where you don't have that type of wholesale relationship necessarily. You don't turn on a well or some other expensive water source. It's not impossible to have tiered rates in NID, but this is certainly easier and more defensible.
Thank you.
So, and then the other policy decision I just want to point to is that if you look at the middle of the table where it says additional monthly regulatory fees, we just rolled that into the rates. I'm unclear as to why it was separated out before, but it just causes confusion.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And so with the initial the low, this is, or sorry, well, even with the low, but this is the high scenario showing first. The volumetric rates would move a little bit past the tier 2 rate right now. And that kind of keeps all customers from having, everyone's kind of in the same boat of having their costs increase to some degree. People aren't having their bills go down. But there are going to be, in that first year with these cost allocate, updating the cost of service allocation and making these rate structure changes, there will be certain customers that have higher or lower outcomes relative to the overall percent increase. So in that first year, the 12.5 for the high scenario really only applies to the revenue that's coming in to the agent, the projected revenue coming into the agency. Customers will have a variety of outcomes depending on how they use water and what customer class they're in. So this shows a comparison of treated water inside district bills at different usage thresholds. So the shows 5, 10, and 20 use bills.
I had a question on, could we have an example of an 8-inch water user?
Oh, for raw water?
No, treated.
It'd be like a big commercial user. I don't know off the top of my head who's an 8-inch.
Golf course, school, hospital.
Golf course? Yeah. City of Grass Valley, probably golf course somewhere.
I have a different question going back to when we were discussing these recommendations and essentially decision points for the board. At what point do you want that direction? Because I personally am very much in favor of only allocating the tax benefit to inside district people who pay the taxes.
Yeah, I'm 100% with
And I'm very much in favor of including the cost of supply in those outside district rates. And so I don't know at what point in this process you want to get that recommendation from our board.
I'm taking notes now. At
okay.
the end, I'll go through my notes to ensure I heard correctly.
Okay. Well, I just didn't want that to just kind of fly by.
I already put it as number 3.
Yeah, thank you, Ricky.
It's
I'm a big thumbs up with her on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Thank you.
And we'll show the outcomes of those different as we go through here. But
that was the next question. So as the models as we go forward, they took into account these assumptions?
yes.
Is that true? Okay.
So these initial rate outcomes reflect those assumptions.
Those assumptions. Okay, great.
See the impact. And so for the treated water customers, the impact is more pronounced at lower use levels with that initial change. And it's because you don't have the tier 1 anymore. It's the same tier for all customers. So that so as on a percent basis, if you're using a lot more water, your increase is slightly less than the increase for someone who is a lower user who only use that lower cost tier water. So that's kind of the outcome for
like a base cost, right?
Right. So if you were tier 1, always a tier 1 user, your costs, your increase is more under this scenario. It's shifting some of the revenue recovery.
And one other important point is, many customers, we're talking about bill impacts, but many customers are tier 1 users in the winter and then tier 2 users in the summer. So just as as usage progresses throughout the year, there's different levels of use for the same customer.
This is annual. This is based off of kind of annual average, not, your summer bills are going to be much higher typically.
Sure.
Yeah.
And for the purposes of clarity, can you explain or define CCF?
Oh yeah, 100 cubic feet. So that's the unit that you bill in. So as you use 100 cubic feet, I believe 100 cubic feet is 748 gallons.
Because it is confusing. I get questions all the time. It's like, well, my bill is, what is this?
On our bills, we say
HCF,
which is 100 cubic feet. The CCF is it's Latin. What's the C centum?
Yeah.
Right.
It means the same. Yes, thank you. It means the same thing. And
Small Greek to me.
It's Latin.
It's Latin.
Right, but you can see why there is confusion.
Absolutely, yes.
I knew what it meant, but I don't know why it said CCF.
Right, I know.
It's just a different way
It's
of
just the
saying
Latin
it.
way of saying it.
Latin.
Thank you for that clarification.
Many agencies also call it a unit of water.
Yeah.
Just to,
Yeah.
All the same thing,
Well, yeah.
714 gallons.
1,000 gallons.
Ticks on the meter, I guess. I don't know. So looking at the impact to outside potable rates in the high scenario, with those recommended changes, you'll see, and I was just jumping ahead because all of the, so slide 17 shows the rate outcomes for every meter size and volumetric outcome. But this slide shows the change at different levels, and so whereas the previous, for inside, the changes between $5 and $6.60 at the 5 to 20 level. For outside customers with this change at the high scenarios, it's $10.74 to $15.99, so 20 to 14% increase. And so that's with that shifting of allocation of the tax revenue essentially and the source of supply cost.
So those are significant increases.
that's right. So with the city, for instance, the folks who are in the city of Grass Valley, they are outside district. So does this accurately represent what their bills would show, or does the city of Grass Valley then add
They pay,
on?
they only have raw water. Grass Valley? They have both.
They have both, yeah.
So
What do you mean the residential people in the city of Grass Valley?
Yeah,
Or the actual city itself?
in the actual city, yeah.
yeah,
So
so
so the question, let me restate it, is, so what you're showing here is outside district potable water. These numbers reflect what the city of Grass Valley residents would be paying for their portable water. Or would the city of Grass Valley then add on?
They pass it. My understanding is they pass it
Yeah.
on.
They just pass it through? I don't know.
No, I don't know that they pass it. I don't know what they do.
They have their own rate study.
They have
Yeah.
their own, but
Right, okay.
you don't have a direct.
This is what we
relationship,
would charge.
But
for
it's not a
outside.
direct relationship with City of Grass Valley customers.
Understood, but with our contract is with the city of Grass Valley for the provision of
What they would
service.
pay, and
Uh-huh.
then how they decide to pass that on, if at all, to customers, that's their decision.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You good? Yeah. My eyes are getting tired.
oh yes, we're
Actually, Mr. Chair, can I propose a 5-minute recess? If we could actually keep it to 5 minutes, a legit 5-minute recess, not a 15-minute.
Absolutely.
I apologize.
I know, Jan, she's gonna give you the stink.
I just got it.
You got the stink eye,
I
okay.
apologize. I could really use a 5 or 3-minute recess.
5 or 3. We'll take a 5-minute
okay?
recess, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, meeting's back in session. You.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
Much appreciated.
all right. So the outside district customers will see a larger increase than the inside in the first year due to that reallocation. And then after that, all customers will then be increasing at the 12.5% or the 9.5%, depending on the scenario. I didn't get the memo. All right. So I'll kind of skip ahead to some key points, and feel free to stop me if you have questions. But moving to the lower CIP, for inside district customers, one key point is, as I made on the higher scenario, just that with this current iteration, we targeted to have the volumetric rate at least have a slight increase. So that was one of the goals. And so this, for the lower CIP scenario, it would go from 313 to 316 for the tier two rate in just that first year. In the lower scenario, you see the dollar amount change go for a five unit customer, and that'd be the largest impact volumetrically. Would be the 413 change. And then going as water use increases, going up to 458. But the percent change would be declining as water use increased. There we go. And a similar situation for the outside district customers as well. On the lower scenario, there's just the overall increase is a little bit lower than in the high scenario, but the proportionality is almost the same. I will say, just because of the cost allocation, there are some differences in outcomes between scenarios, just because capital costs have a higher weighting in the overall allocation apportionment than in the lower CIP scenario. So it does change the outcome slightly as well. We did a regional survey to look at where your potable rates, the outcome of potable rates relative to neighboring customers. And for in-district customers, you are on the lower end. And so this is just showing an in-district residential customer that uses 10 units, 100 cubic feet of water in a month. And so both scenarios, you would still be on the lower end of neighboring agencies. I will also say, surveys you always have to take with a grain of salt, because every district has different, source of supply costs. They're different size. Their infrastructure has different ages, but it's just kind of a good high level, it lets you know at a high level where you are relative to the other agencies.
I have a question looking at this same graph, if you don't mind. So is it, what you're stating here is that the lower CIP and the higher CIP, the difference for in-district customers is basically about $1.50 per month? Is that what you're showing?
At that, yes, at that water.
At that water use. And the water use is what? 10 CCF, but
Yes.
10, is that, now you have to help me. Is it 100 units of water per month or
10 units of water.
10 units?
10 units of water per month.
Okay.
Yes.
And 10 units of water equals what?
10
10 gallons? Or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
okay.
quite a bit.
That's a lot. That's a lot of water, because I'm trying to put this in
Mhm.
my bill and bills in my neighborhood and stuff. So that's a lot of water. It's a generous amount of water, I would say. So
Yeah.
I use way less than that. That's what I was trying to just get a feel for.
Yeah. And it's kind of an average amount, so it includes some summer irrigation.
Some summer irrigation, but
in
not
that.
all, yeah.
It's kind of an
So it's about
average.
$1.50 a month difference.
It is very difficult to compare apples to apples.
Sure.
Because everybody's treatment different. People have treatment, people have more wells.
Yeah.
people have pipeline.
Right.
Has some specific initiative.
Well, all we can do though is look at averages and try to compare. And then the other thing I want to point out, which we talked about last time, is the city of Nevada City is looking at a 25% increase. And whether they do that or not, we don't know. But that is what is being proposed.
Yeah, I think I subbed 25 each year.
Yeah, 25 each year. I mean, that's a huge increase. Of course, they haven't increased their rates for decades, I think. So anyhow,
Question, are the treated water to Nevada City and Grass Valley, is that in district or out of district?
out.
That's how many customers do we have of treated in district versus out of district?
Oh, you know what? You gave me that.
Same question.
But treated in district versus out of district?
A percentage roughly is 2%, 10%, 40%.
It's to be less.
Remember, you gave me those numbers, Jen.
Yeah.
Very, very small.
20,000 out of 60 out of 20.
Yeah, it's extremely small.
Thank you.
And that's one valid point. So increases associated with treated water are not the same as proposed increases associated with raw water.
Right.
Because remember, treated water has a larger customer base in which to divide total costs over. So their increased cost per customer is less because there's more.
Right. But in case, in thinking of protests and so on, and actual impact to the human impact to the large number of people, what this is showing me is it's, $1.50, maybe $2 a month.
We're gonna hear it from the raw water customers.
Yeah.
Not the treated water.
I understood, but I just, you know, it is an interesting point to look at what they're saying.
And that's,
Quick point, maybe, of all the water in the world, 3% is fresh. And we have some of the best fresh water in the world.
Point.
And I just want to, so at some time, we're going to have to increase the capacity at E. George from 18 million gallons a day to 24. No?
Not unless there's a whole lot more residential connections connecting, even with
Well, I would,
like Wildwood, it can
Even
absorb it.
Wildwood doesn't.
well, you got a whole bunch of areas down there that just aren't connected. But I'm thinking more that my premise all along, water treatment plants are getting more costly because of government regulations and everything else. And we're probably going to be to a point where we'd be better off having less of them than a whole bunch of regional ones, huh?
Plants, you're talking about?
Water treatment plants.
Oh, yes.
They're getting very expensive. And I just see George being expanded. So I just like to, I don't know if the 6479 or 6326 is going to do the job.
Right. So
I'd like to see a little more.
a treatment
Right.
plant expansion would be paid for by connection fees, not ratepayers.
Okay.
Oh, because
The new connection
that's-
fees or
Huh?
even, okay. That could get,
And let's say the climate change was so bad, it was 120 degrees every day, then you could justify the current ratepayers, but it'd be new connection fees.
Mhm. Okay.
all right. So, but that is a good point. The difference in the scenarios and showing there with kind of an average user is about a $1.50 difference in the outcome. And so moving on to the raw water, this does show for raw water, the inside versus outside number of accounts and miners inches. And you can see that there are significantly, outside represents only a small amount of accounts and 89 accounts and a small portion of the overall miners inches as well. Raw water has the same allocation recommendations built into the model. So it has the property tax allocation and the source of supply cost allocation. One other policy consideration is to remove the 5% prepayment discount. The district brought up that it actually costs more to process those discount payments than other types of payment. And it really doesn't save the district money. So that was one other assumption.
I have a question on the winter water. I thought we actually we're delivering around 40,000 acre feet, 25,000 to Placer County, 15,000 to Nevada County. And this is only less than 5,000. Is the difference? Okay, so, but we are using, and so this only, but even during this dry period now, we're still holding to this ratio of 5,000 acre feet being out of storage and 35,000 out of diversion. Okay.
I have a question if I could, or a discussion point. We have a lot of canals. We have a huge amount of infrastructure.
Yeah.
Is there anything to discuss about whether or not this canal serves one person and it costs us $100 million as part of the rate
Mhm.
study? Or is there anything of that nature coming into this?
That is not included in the rate study, but that is a place we need.
We do need to look at that, especially like winter water.
Yeah, for example, so with Smartsville, I think we referenced this at the 2x2 meeting with PCWA. We have switched all of Smartsville over to treated water only because it was not cost effective to run those canals. But there are other canals that are of the same situation. For example, the Pet Hill extension is questionable.
So we looked into this when,
I didn't talk about it.
Hmm.
We looked into this before Jennifer, right?
Yes.
Did we do a Bartle Wells?
Well, there's a Bartle Wells study some years ago.
Canals on the,
That was, yeah. So
Yeah.
the previous study that was completed was looking at cost of service analysis that would essentially get rid of the postage stamp method. So our
Right.
rates are defined postage stamp, right? It costs me the same to mail a letter here or to New York. Well, going to a zoned methodology in which costs reflect their specific infrastructure is highly complex.
Mhm.
And it
and
gets,
that's why we ixnayed it.
That's why
Yeah.
we
so that's what you're
Ex-nate
looking
that.
at. You,
But It's
the-
legal. in-
ex-nate.
you can do it that way, yes. Both methodologies are legal as long as they're substantiated by logic and math. The zone philosophy in a district such as ours would be extremely difficult. to
Mhm.
administer.
That's what we concluded.
Yeah.
Well, plus take one ditch. It was developed as a unit, as a ditch. So it wouldn't make sense, 100 years later to say, you at the top of the ditch pay less than the guy at the end of the ditch because you don't have as much infrastructure to get you water. So there's an
Mhm.
equity component to it.
Like a road maintenance agreement, right?
Road maintenance agreement.
Similar, yes. Like, oh, I live at the top of the road. I only pay $1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I have, are you done, Earl?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
Still
So-
thinking.
So, here we are again with a policy consideration and we're talking, I'd like to have a little bit of discussion around the 5% prepayment discount. And it seems to me, and I'm asking this, that this favors one class of customers over another. And it seems that it could be like a gift of public funds. Who funds this discount? Do all ratepayers then fund the 5% discount? I'm just wondering if we want to continue to have it. That's,
So staff's recommendation is we discontinue the 5% discount. And there's a couple of reasons why we are making this recommendation. The first one is that the 5% prepayment discount actually costs the district more money. The district has no cost savings. So
mhm.
those prepayment customers have to be manually calculated and processed outside of the system. So we're inherently having to put more staff work into doing it.
Huh?
The second concern that I have with the prepayment is that my bill is $1,000 a year. I get a 5% discount, but somebody's bill is $30,000 a year. They get a 5% discount. It's the same amount of work that goes into it, but their benefit is much greater from a monetary perspective than my benefit would be.
But isn't that the point, is the benefit to the customer, not to the district?
There should, well, we
That
can
was the
set
original.
rates.
But we're sa-
I don't know,
But
probably.
we're favoring one class of customers and essentially, we're favoring a class of customers over another,
Then the
which is a concern.
there's a couple more points. The third
Okay.
item is that somebody is paying for
Mhm.
that revenue
Loss.
loss.
Mhm. Right.
And so everybody else is covering that revenue loss, whether it's in actual increase in rates or if it's decrease in benefit from property tax or hydropower.
Right.
And then the fourth thing is it's going to be very, very complex to administer this. We're not even quite sure if we can in the new Tyler system. And if we do it, I do believe we're probably going to have to extend our schedule on implementation to utility billing because it takes a huge custom build outside of what they normally do.
How many customers take advantage of the
It's
prepayment?
about 140,000 per year. Aurora just looked it up today. Do you know how many customers it was? Yeah. So it's about $140,000 worth of revenue that we're losing a year off this prepaid.
And then who covers that? We're saying the balance of the ratepayers.
Ratepayers in one way or another.
See, that doesn't seem fair. I mean,
So they're paying for it.
Like the 5%.
well, of course. Well, of course.
What are the
You
two
know,
classes of citizenship?
Yeah.
classes,
Nobody-
those who can afford to pay it up front and those who can't.
Yeah.
And, and then the ratepayers are then subsidizing those who can afford it.
But the other side of looking at it is that the people that pay it up front, the district has that money up front, which we can then use.
And that was.
But I'm hearing now that's not how this works.
That doesn't help us at all.
Historically, that must be why it was implemented, right? Like gearing up for irrigation season, maybe the district was strapped and just needed some
Cash.
cash to get rolling.
cash to move the needle in our world.
Right.
Do you think at one time it was? How did it get?
I don't. I think it's more of what President Beerwagen said, that it was more of a
We discussed this in the,
benefit
yeah.
that was determined to be provided to specific
A
customers.
certain class of customers.
I think there's a couple Prop 218 issues, and
Mhm.
one is associated with the disparity between what 5% equals between a low water user and a high water user. Automatically, you would, somebody, a high water user gets a higher monetary benefit. Then there's also the question of how is that, who's paying for that 5%?
Right.
Somebody's paying for it. And then third, we're going to have a technical issue.
And do we have a legal issue?
Yeah, everything you do in 218 has to be justified by cost.
Right.
So if you're giving a discount, you have to say that you're reducing your costs somehow.
Right. And I
That's,
don't
I
see,
think where
We can't do
we've
that.
been struggling with it.
right. So
Or it's increased costs to actually process this. Then
yeah, so you can't justify it based on cost to the district because it increases the cost to the district while you're taking less revenue from the customer. Did I say that correctly?
Is there a cost? I'm sorry. So to go back to the cost savings. So I understand you have to input this manually, or perhaps it's not even possible in the new system. But instead of having to input checks every 3 months or throughout the irrigation season, is it easier to just input one check? Was that the intent of it maybe?
I don't know.
Okay.
It is not easier. Most people are using automatic bill pay now. We use a check lock box. So, a difference between the number of checks, that doesn't really,
We need some old timer here.
as to why.
I think that's you. My friend, you
I've
know
been
that.
taking advantage of it my entire life.
I think it's probably an historical traditional holdover,
I do too.
but that is a policy consideration I have on my list here.
Okay.
Chip's been around a long time.
Oh, you just
Not
got
an
the
old
old
timer,
He just
that-
asked for an old timer.
Made it deflect.
70, what's that?
Yeah.
It was prior to Prop.
Prior to 218. Okay,
There you go.
I know.
that's a good point too.
So the raw water customers have a fixed service charge that they pay once per season, and then they also have a per miner's inch charge that they pay per season. For the high scenario, we're looking at a fixed charge increase for the summer for an in-district customer from $571 essentially to $661, and for a miner's inch in the summer going from $336.50 to $393.50, so about $60 a miner's inch. We looked at a half of a miner's inch, 1 miner's inch, and 5 miner's inches. 5 miner's inches reflects about 90% of customers have 5 or below. So the impact for in district is about 16% up to 16.5%, roughly going from $118.12 for a half miner's inch up to $374 for the season for 5 miner's inches, 375 rounding up. So that's the, at the high CIP scenario. So there's a little bit more cost with the raw water with the reallocation in this first year. After that, it would, just repeating what I said earlier, it would go back down in the second year to 12.5% for this high scenario.
And then just so Aurora ran me some numbers. So based off of today, we have 4,022 customers that are 5 inches and below. We have 2,604 customers that are 1 inch and below.
And how many then over five?
So 20 inches and below, that's 4,284. So that's like a 62. We have 62 customers between 20 inches and to 6 inches. And then over 30 inches, we have 63 customers, or 30 inches and over.
You had given me sort of some guesstimate numbers on this before, when we spoke. What I was trying to get at is how many people are going to be, huge, dramatically impacted. And
I'd say
it was the people over 5 inches. I mean, not that it's not a dramatic impact for 1/8, but I mean, some of these are like, whoa. And then the follow-up question is, can we do a different rate increase for treated versus raw?
Yeah.
Under 218?
It's customer class.
Customer class. So we can.
100% you can. And you can't use treated water rates to pay subsidized raw water rates, and you can't use raw water rates to subsidize.
So we could, as opposed to take the recommendation, let's say what it was 12% or something across the board for the high CIP, we could do a different rate increase for the raw water customers versus the treated water.
You just need a cost justification.
Yeah, I don't know how you come up with your
So-
cost justification.
Or, for example, I don't know that this is even.
But it sounds like our cost of service isn't even being met even with under the current proposal.
Well,
Correct.
Your true cost,
Our
your
true,
subsidy, you have a subsidy,
right,
non-rate revenue. So
Right.
your true cost of service is higher than even what's presented here.
that's right. So my idea was that we somehow internally, or whatever, we look at that so that the raw water customers are not hit as hard.
You would have to reduce raw water only capital.
Yeah, you'd have two different capital plans.
Uh-huh.
We would have a lower CIP.
Oh, I like that idea. Have a third option
But we can, but
specific to raw water.
so it's already all specific to
Okay.
treated and raw. There's no not specific.
But you follow what I'm trying to do? I mean, I'm not
I do,
articulating.
and I appreciate that. And I don't,
Unfortunately, lowering capital, which we can do, but the low capital scenario is already the base minimum, is not doing everything you should be doing. So
Understood.
you're going to be doing less than what you should be doing.
Understood. I just wanted to know if that was even an option to think about, if you could do the two different classes differently. in
You are
terms of the-
always doing the two different classes differently. So the
In terms of the amount of increase.
We're different.
Well, I'm just
No,
asking,
I get it.
I don't know.
They're inherently different. So remember, when we're calculating treated water costs, treated water's rate is this bottle, right? The bottom of the bottle is their fair share of the raw water delivery costs and apportionment
Right.
of the source water revenue.
Right.
Then they pay all of the treated water costs. So all of those pipeline replacements, all of the treatment plant replacements, none of that is allocated to the raw water people.
Got it.
The raw water people get they get the preponderance of the source water benefit, and then they pay for just their raw water only costs that are not shared with treated water. So that's the system below the treatment plants, right?
Mhm.
So if you want to lower the rates more, we're essentially just cutting capital more.
I see.
What would that look like? Meaning that if you had, use the lower tier, whatever we're referring for.
Lower CIP
For
for
the low
raw water and the higher one for the treated.
What would that look like?
You could do that. You could go in. It would just look like the high CIP rates for the treated people.
Yeah.
Except for we would have to go ensure that nothing in the high scenario was raw water only.
Huh.
We'd have to kind of go and just double check. But essentially, treated water would be able to replace more treated water rates. So under the high scenario, remember they're replacing more, about $6 million a year worth of pipeline.
Mhm.
Under the low scenario, it was like 4. So, they would be getting more treated water. You could do that. We could hold that. If you want to see a hybrid scenario. But if we
Yeah, hybrid. There we go.
So you
That's
want
kind of what I was.
see a scenario in which treated water is replacing more of their system
Mhm.
and raw water stays at the low level.
But what I'm getting to is physically, what, I mean, I understand what we do on the treated water, there's more pipes, et cetera. What would we do on the treated water? I mean, the raw water, would there be less canal maintenance? Would there be? what-
Yeah, we would have to make the needle really move. We'd probably have to lower a lot of the repairs to South Yuba Canal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and we may choose not to do that. I didn't even know if it was possible. That was
You-
why
you-
I asked.
You're cutting, yeah, I mean, you're cutting big projects.
And one thing I'll just point out, I skipped ahead a little bit, but so in the first year, we are updating the cost of service allocation. So, there are different classes are getting a different rate increase based on how how your system is currently functioning and your current capital plan. So in the first year, there is a little bit more cost that's being absorbed by raw water just based on that update. That kind of resets the proportionality. And then going forward, then the costs would be, then their increases stay at the overall increase until you do another cost of service study that kind of resets the proportionality again. So in the low scenario, we're looking at a 9.5% overall increase. The raw water customers would be looking at an 11% increase. So they're having a slightly higher change, but it's not a extremely significant change. And then after that first year, they'd go back down to the 9.5% for the remaining 4 years. Yeah. So it's just kind of a initial reset, and then how the pie is split up, and then it stabilizes.
So it would help if the state of California paid us for the water they take. And, proposed to take.
Go ahead and bill it. Let's bill it.
Yeah.
I mean-
Bill.
So also the way we show the billing is different, right? So the raw water,
Mhm.
the majority of our customers are 1 inch and lower. They will be receiving $118 increase a year.
Right. That's
Where the treated water rates are shown, the increase is shown monthly.
Monthly.
It's just a function of how it's billed.
Yeah.
Okay. Just had to ask.
Yeah.
Well, you're cutting capital, so I'll come up with a scenario to show you how what
Hybrid.
capital
I
is
just
cut.
was looking at a hybrid.
Well, so you want the treated water to have the high scenario capital and the raw water to have even a lower level of capital.
Well, no, just the low level capital. I mean, you've already got a low level capital here. We don't have to talking lower.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought.
Oh, I would do the lower. Yeah. I would do version 3. I want to see just barely keeping the lights on option.
I
Okay.
don't think we can have self-dealing
I
here.
think it'd be useful to see what barely keeping the lights on looks like, because I think that's a useful perspective. It's not realistic, but I think it could be useful to
It'd
see
be
that.
like fun to look at.
It's the train.
My
train
fun.
wreck?
Yeah, the train wreck.
Train wreck.
It's just an academic.
It is.
Well, I don't know if staff has.
Okay, we'll have all right.
You see where I'm going.
Things we'll do head nodding over.
It's a workshop, right?
Yeah.
All right.
You see where I'm going, right? I just want to see other possibilities because I know that our ag sector will be hit hard by this.
Yep.
And I just want to explore all possibilities to lower the impact.
You're cutting capital.
Right.
Okay.
And so now we'll find out how bad that is,
So
how
the-
much capital we're cutting.
So the original question what you clarified was not to do that. What you clarified was to do just a hybrid scenario of treated is doing high capital and raw is just
doing
a
low.
scenario. That
Right.
doesn't change raw at all from what you're seeing.
So what we have in
Wait.
here is 2 options, don't we? Raw,
Yeah, but
We have
Scenario
raw
and-
high and,
low.
so you're still looking at raw low. and you're
I see what you're saying.
high.
And I guess we are
Dr. Fowler is asking for low.
low.
Option 3. It's just
So-
not on there.
And low raw.
Low, is this like a Bugs Bunny raw?
So
Well, I don't know. I don't know that that's even worth staff time. I mean,
Yeah,
director.
I'm wondering if it's worth staff.
So what
Because we know we can't do
I
that.
I
We
want
did
to
it.
caution you.
Please.
You can't break the logic. South Yuba Canal is a good example. You can't have treated doing
Okay.
high and raw doing, that would break the logic. Do you follow that?
Okay, yes, I
So
do. It was worthy
Southview
to
was
ask.
the major capital piece that's combined that moves the needle, as Jen said earlier,
South.
it's not going to move the needle because you can't break the logic. Now, there may be others.
It would be lowering treated too.
You'd have to. That's
Yeah.
my point.
So that's why if I go low on raw, remember the bottle part of treated is the bottom of treated is raw. So no matter
Oh.
what I do to raw capital, it lowers it for treated. It lowers it for everybody.
I see.
Because it all comes down to.
So low will also incrementally.
Oh, I don't know.
lower
I mean,
treated.
we have to pull the board and see if it's worthy of staff time to do the low. I mean, I think it'd be an interesting academic
I do
exercise,
too, but
but I'm not certain that, well, that we could go there when I'm hearing from our attorney.
But also remember, we have a couple of major fixed costs that are
Understood.
driving most of these rates, right? The biggest one is Scott's Flat. Spillway.
Right. So.
Before we decide on option 3, what about option 4? And that is, right,
Gotta break-
right now, a lot of ag uses winter water, but the winter water is irrelevant to them because they need it on the shoulders of October and they need it in the spring. So sometimes that way buy the winter water, but it's useless to them. Mandarin growers, some of the people like that need it at different times than if they only buy summer water. I use that reason. But long story short is the winter water worth us doing on certain?
another
canals?
policy
So-
discussion.
That's another policy thing.
A lot of the winter waters currently only allowed on canals that already have winter water. A lot of the
Right.
canals that have winter water are driven by the construction conveyance and home water users. So that's a whole different
Yeah.
can of worms that we won't be able to address in time for this. But it is definitely an opportunity to look at.
I would propose that we dip our toe in that water in the future. Okay, this subject.
And the winter water
The
discussion.
winter water, and consumptive consumption.
Yeah.
Constructive
Constructive conveyance.
Constructive conveyance. Whoever named it that.
I know, right?
Raw water in the house.
So wait, I just want to be clear. Are we giving staff direction to add a third option of low?
I have a whole
She's
list.
gonna bring that up. at the
I'm
end.
gonna go through my whole list.
Oh, okay, because I,
You don't want.
hearing this,
you don't
I
want
would
any-
think
you don't want
no.
any Votes today about consensus.
I'm gonna go through a whole laundry list of things I want you to give me.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Okay.
okay, cool.
Oh, we made progress.
All right.
We made progress.
That program.
Another page.
Yeah,
Next, we're looking at outside district. This is also very
Yeah.
similar to treated. Their change goes very, very high because they don't get the benefit of
Right.
property tax and
Yeah.
hydropower.
And there's very few of them. Yeah. So it's a larger change than on the treated side because treated has more of those costs and more customers. This is
Yeah.
more. This doesn't have all the treated costs kind of diluting the impact as well. So this is
if an outside district wants to join the district,
They have to
Who
go
do
to
they-
LAFCO.
This is.
Who do they see? First,
To go to LAFCO first.
They have-
LAFCO, but also here, Greg, or,
We would go to Greg.
okay,
so
It's an
Yeah.
incentive.
his home phone number is.
It would be an incentive.
So with this outcome, the outside city outside district for in the high CIP scenario would just about double in the rate for with the reallocation change. And so for like I said, the low scenario, which I showed before, was the 11% impact for the inside district. And also to the point about the hybrid scenarios, you can basically get an idea of what it would be with, it'd be this 11% versus the higher scenario treated. That would just be slightly lower if if you were going with the low raw water scenario because that portion of the bottle would be through. But essentially you can get that idea of that first, the hybrid of low and high just by looking at the different scenarios in the presentation. So the impact for outside customers with the low scenario is actually slightly slightly higher just because of the allocation of costs. There's not that many customers, and the CIP cost weights allocation heavier in the high scenario than the low scenario. So that's where some of the cost of service outcomes are a little bit different. Just the allocation of those the proportional allocation of the property tax funds is weighted higher in the low scenario, actually. So it actually has a slightly higher impact to those outside customers in the low scenario.
Say it again, please.
Yeah.
Look
So
at the numbers here and they're having me confused.
So when we do cost allocation, it's all kind of proportional based on how each type of cost benefits raw and treated and inside and outside. So in the high scenario, a much larger portion of your overall cost is capital. So that weighting effect is distributed. It affects how all of your costs are distributed to all of your customer types. And so in the low scenario, you have capital is weighted much lower, and so then the weighting of property tax allocation is higher. So there's a more increased outcome, or the outcome is magnified of that higher weighting on property tax for the outside district customers for raw water. And it really is because they're also such a small group of customers in the overall. So any slight change has a big impact to allocation outcomes.
Okay, so on 29 and 33, one is proposed outside district higher CIP. There's outside district lower CIP at the 5 minors inches. If it's a lower CIP, it's 99,200. If it's a higher CIP, it's 8,900.
And it's purely just that's very sensitive to the property tax allocation. So there's more capital in their rate in the other version, but there's also more capital that's.
Now, I think, Eric, what he's saying, outside district, high versus low. Low is higher, is greater than high.
Yeah. Higher. Yeah.
And that's because the impact of the weighting of how things allocate to different groups.
Source water.
Yeah,
Yeah. So most of the, and I just looked real quick, the difference is the big difference between the high and the low CIP as it pertains to raw water only is really related to the South Yuba Canal, which is source water costs. So that's kind of makes it a shifting allocation when you're talking about high, low on outside district.
Why would the low CIP be more expensive than the high CIP? That's the part I'm not following.
Because it's a lower amount of money spent in the.
Scott's Flat versus Rollins acreage.
No, I think
it's
let's look at it.
It's the portion of the cost that is the property tax. So the property tax and the source of supply
Side.
in the overall allocation would be it's a smaller
Are you talking
portion.
30%
Yes. So it's a smaller portion, and so it creates a different outcome, and it's just.
But I couldn't repeat it.
And you're looking at kind of and also we're looking at this is kind of resetting it. It's based on a 5-year average, so it's also looking at how much is being paid over time over the 5-year period. So the final rate at the end of the 5-year period will, I believe, still be higher than the other one. Actually, I can just go back.
It's also, remember, it's also a different function of debt and reserves.
So you're saying it's valid and correct, but it's magic math with a sub.
It's complex magical math.
Complex math.
It just gets complicated. But let us go back and look at it, and we'll discuss it again we'll confirm that it's correct. And if it is correct, we'll explain to you in normal words why.
I like whiteboards.
Yeah. I'd like to make a quick point. 5 miners inches is 45 acre feet, $9,000. That's only $200 an acre foot. And many districts in the Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley are paying way beyond that.
We are not many districts. And
I understand.
Those
We're-
references are always inflationary.
They can be, because I'm just telling you that we're not the only ones looking at that. And it could catch up with us. So we need to be, somewhat realistic.
Water to somebody else. Is that where you're getting at?
No,
So
tried that.
No,
It's
but you
just,
think that some of the higher users may have to modify their irrigation practices.
That was my earlier question is what, if I'm gonna lower my usage, is that going to do the same thing as the drought restrictions?
Yeah.
Quit watering your lawn. Oh my God, we gotta raise our rates because we're not using as much.
Well, that's a good question.
It depends on how many, that one it shake out till likely the second when we do rates again.
But we have such a backlog of people that want to be on ditches. We should be okay. Is that correct?
We should, and we're also shifting more into the fixed, right? So it could cause a problem, but we won't know till it actually happens. Because in looking at, just doing a quick look at the differences between the low and the high CIP for raw water specifically, it's gonna be really hard to make a low. Because Scott's Flat is the bulk of.
Yeah, and that's gotta happen
Yeah.
no matter what, right?
I mean, you would be the place you would cut is putting money aside to repair and or replace South Yuba Canal.
Right.
so, and also to
This is nickel.
Earl's point, this does not take into the FERC increased flow demands nor unimpaired flows.
No. Under an unimpaired flow scenario, we would have a whole lot of problems, including a massive water shortage, which then in
Yes,
turn.
which then it's like-
financially.
Right, it's. Okay,
Okay, so I think we are at the end. We have the next steps, but let's go through right now my list.
okay,
Oh, do you want to look at the comparison finally?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I thought we did that.
yes.
Okay.
I have a question about that. Go ahead.
and so this is just a one inch comparison, and essentially for an in-district customer for the summer season, it'd be a $100 change, and then a $150 change is what.
1 minus inch level. So
Yeah.
not- Yeah.
And that's for basically, the irrigation,
It's for irrigation
six
season,
months
not per
roughly.
month. There's some of
Correct.
these had said per month and
I was just.
that was a typo,
Yeah.
but this would be
Season,
season,
correct.
which is how many months
6.
right now? 6.
Six,
Yeah. Well, that's what I
yes.
thought, but just wanted you to say it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So 6 months. Yeah. So it's different than the $5 per month of unlikely
Yeah.
you're looking at with the
So if
low
it's
scenario for.
150 divided by 6 months, it's whatever per month. Yeah, I'm not minimizing it. Every penny is important to everybody, but it's nice to put it in perspective.
Yeah, about 25. Yeah.
25 a month,
Yes. Yeah.
roughly.
Yeah. It's a little early. I had to type it in just to double.
I know, that's,
No, just kidding.
well, it's important to put those in context, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that puts it on kind of more of an apples to apples
Right, okay.
comparison. Yeah. And I did just double check with the point on the allocation. The final rate is higher for the outside in the higher scenario. It's just you're doing a reset based on a 5-year average cost. So it's how much they're paying over the 5 years. We look at the average cost of the CIP and the average cost of projected of operating costs when we do the allocations. So just in the first year, it's higher. At the end, the rate is, in the first year, the low scenario is higher. At the end of the 5-year, even for outside, it's lower for the low scenario and higher for the high scenario. So it's just kind of the pie, how the pie is split kind of has a slightly odd first year outcome in that one case, but it's just because we're looking at 5-year averages, and it's a very tiny group that is very sensitive to any shift.
I'd like you to look at that again, because I'm looking at it here, slide 29 and 33. And if I'm outside, lower and higher, the one, it's a half a miner's inch. Okay, so it's 5 years, but half a miner's inch, 1 miner's inch, and 5 miner's inches, right? All of them are 5-year averages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I'm missing. Okay. if that's what it is, you have a bell-shaped curve or whatever.
Yeah, so the final rate for outside summer in the low scenario is per miner's inch in the summer is 2,300, 2,311. And in the high scenario for outside district, it's 2,498.
Okay.
So that's, so we're doing the cost of service adjustment in the first year, and then the proportionality is reset, but it's the proportionality is based on the projected, average over the next 5 years.
Thank you.
And with that, we're at the end of
We're at the end of the thing. He's going,
end of all the slides. So now, yes.
I just have one final question, observation about the survey shows that we're going to be higher for raw water relative to our neighbors and lower with treated water.
It's the amount of raw water infrastructure we have in comparison to other
We have
people.
more,
mhm.
okay. Yeah, okay.
Which brings me to the point of looking at what infrastructure do we really need and what do we gain?
Well, we got 500 miles of canals.
It's
Like, I don't think we can-
mileage of canals. are
Yeah.
the problem. But to your point, I mean, are all those canals? Okay, so going to my list.
Go ahead.
Is everybody essentially, so this isn't an actual decision. This is kind of a head nod. This is how we're gonna frame up the next work.
Thumbs up or thumbs down, is that what we're gonna do?
And yeah. Okay, 1 tier only for treated water. Going
Oh, yeah.
from one,
Mhm,
2 tiers to 1 tier.
I'm okay with that.
mhm.
Rolling in the regulatory fee into treated water into just the base rate.
Mhm. It's that $1.90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rich wants you to speak up.
That's the first time anybody's ever asked you that.
Point of order. Point
We
of
have
order.
more fun than other boards. I'm just
I'm
one.
on the side now. You're gonna be out the door.
What is it? Okay, let's see. Source of supply and property tax only benefit inside district customers.
Yes,
Big time.
those who are paying,
Yes,
so that we're clear. Yeah.
they can join.
Escalation factor, would you like us to take consideration of something higher?
I'd like to see it.
Yes, we have escalation. We have 4%.
4 or 6,
Oh.
both, yes.
Do you want to see?
Well,
a
why not?
6%?
Why not a 5 and a 6? I mean, I was just thinking, just
You know, 4, 5, 6.
That's
4,
easy.
5, 6,
Okay.
something like that.
Yes.
4, 5, 6. And it's just remember in actuals for some of the capital, they're not, it's a little bit different because we do.
Understood. Yeah.
At the next meeting, I will provide a higher level review of kind of the capital scenarios, but without going into detail about every
Right.
project. Okay. Do you want a lower capital scenario?
I would like
No.
a lower capital scenario.
No. No. I know, we're
Yeah.
already there.
Well done, Chip. Thank you.
Rich, what were you
Rich?
saying? Was that a no?
Up or down?
Lower?
We can't afford to go lower.
No, we can't afford to go lower.
We ha-
I mean, that was a good
For
idea.
me, we
that I
have
had,
to
but
see how we can finance much higher.
I don't think so.
Okay. No lower. And then I'm gonna check the high-low CIP on the outside.
what about the
district. We'll
5%?
Go through that again.
What about the 5% discount for advanced?
Oh, yes, the most 5% discount.
Yeah, I don't think we should do it.
I like it.
Well, of course you do, but
Based on
is it proper?
You want the 5% discount?
based on
What's your
history.
question? Get rid of it or keep it?
Yeah, post the question.
Yeah.
The question is, should
do
we
we
get eliminate the 5% discount?
Yes, we should.
So
Okay, Rich.
Rich, where are you
I'm
at?
gonna go, but I'm saying it's like hitchhiking through Barstow. Anyway,
Barstow.
Are you gonna do a little Jack?
can we do something like the farmers ranchers are going to get hit by this anyway? Can we do something that we have a timeout 5 years of 5% still So
we-
we could
It's
have an adjustment period.
$175,000 hit to the district that then is funded by the other ratepayers.
Well,
I mean, that's
so-
the thing I just want to keep
And
in
my
mind.
concern with it is that we're already looking at super significant rate increases, and then we're going to take away this discount that we've been accustomed to forever, and nobody knows why, but it's been there. And people appreciate it, right? And so we're going to take away this discount that we've built into our budgets, and now we're going to hit it on top of that. And so we're talking about a double whammy.
Who's going to pay for it? Are you going to write a check for everybody else?
Ricky,
I'm teasing you, but yeah.
So my interest is in protecting agriculture, and this is going to hit
Yes.
agriculture more than anybody else.
Agreed. I
And-
know.
And I've been pretty candid about, and
How about,
how do we do that
Phase it in.
without a double whammy?
How do you do it the first year?
well, I have concerns it's illegal, so
I think
we
it
will
is.
Go through, but
We have to justify it by non-rate revenue.
yeah.
Which gets itself into legal issues.
Yes.
And
it's-
I just
it's
don't know.
Existed for X amount of years, and we don't know why, right?
So-
It was probably prior to Prop 218.
Oh,
if
definitely.
we could ease it out, and then we were able to soften the initial.
So do we care if it will move our schedule for our Tyler implementation on our utility billing?
That's another cost. Is that correct?
I'm more worried about the Prop 13 handle.
It's a-
Is it definitely a Prop
The
13?
218?
218, yes, 100%.
That's kind of why I was looking at that high-low cap, CIP for ag versus, or raw water versus the others to try and soften the blow too.
So not every customer takes advantage of it either.
Right. It's,
Why don't we do this? Why don't I do a further analysis on it to provide you more solid information from which you may make a decision?
Okay.
well, and then I think it's important to have the legal piece there too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I will put that in there.
And I'm gonna just interject that the county this year was also looking at the non-monetary, benefits of agriculture in Nevada County.
Mhm.
And in 2018, the Ag Commissioner had done a study, and it came out that it was somewhere around $419 million to $1.2 billion of actual benefits to the community that ag does not get paid for. So I would like also us to collaborate with anybody out there who can start realizing some of this benefits to our ag community, because even in one of our recent meetings, ag, it just isn't brought up. And it is a driver of fire prevention, of carbon sequestration, environmental habitat and everything. It really makes what our community is so unique about, and yet nobody gets paid for it. So how can we can't take it on ourselves, but how do we collaborate with someone who will start advocating for these things, whether it's money or
Isn't that the Farm Bureau
what?
and RCD? I mean, I'm asking.
RCD
There's a
is.
lot of,
RTD actually goes out and gets money, but
right.
I'm saying it's a bigger picture than that.
Mhm. I don't know if that's our job to do that.
No, I didn't say it was our job. I
Oh,
said,
okay.
Collaborate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay, and those were my items I had listed.
Okay.
The two optional legal procedures.
Oh, yes, both Dustin and I believe we should do the two optional legal procedures.
Oh, right. Oh, I agree.
Statute of limitations,
Correct.
120
Yeah,
days.
whatever is.
Okay, thumbs up.
Administrative exhaustion. procedure.
Yes. Okay, I think we got what we needed. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you for hanging with us.
Yeah.
Appreciate all the great questions.
Welcome, Eric.
And the ones I
for.
Yeah, no, I really do. It's nice having the upfront feedback and getting some more direct. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right, let's get motoring.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We need to do anything about the next steps, or are we covered on that one?
He's got it covered. We already got things
All right,
scheduled.
move forward, Mr. Chair. Let's do it.
I'm trying.
Your meeting.
Which of the other,
4B.
Okay, IT, are we gonna do IT next?
you want to do?
I bet he'd be quick. Are you gonna be quick?
Ricky's running the meeting.
Okay,
Way to go, Chris.
President Beerwagon.
IT next, ITOT. I had to look up.
Well, it's just because it was next in the thing.
Greg, I think we can make this one real quick.
Yes, ma'am. I believe we can. Okay.
Look up what OT stood for.
Okay, so we'll start the ITOT master plan project overview. I've got John Ortiz, our IT administrator, sitting here with me. This is so far a collaboration amongst information technology staff as well as operational technology. That's the definition of IT and OT, which involves staff from our water operations side as well as our hydroelectric divisions. So we've got sort of a multidisciplinary group of staff working this out. And we'll go to the next slide. Okay. The objective of the IT OT master plan is to enhance our network communication and security across the district, ensure adequate staffing for upcoming initiatives, and to strengthen our alignment between both the IT and OT systems. It's intended to serve as a roadmap for us as we move forward in the next 5 to 10 years to build long-term organizational opportunities and improve our internal services, which is essentially the backbone of everything that John and his team do, as well as our on-site operational staff in the field, both at the hydroelectric plants and the water treatment plants. We contracted with HDR a number of months ago, so in April of 2024. We went back for another optional tasks that HDR had identified for us. To date, we have about $87,000 remaining in a budget of $404,000. We're on track. We're on process to meet the deadline and have an IT OT master plan for the board and for all of us in roughly another couple months-ish. So we're getting through it. HDR was given 3 tasks at the beginning. The first one was to identify the current state of our operations. So they went out, they talked to a number of our staff, IT and OT staff. They met with our management team. They visited 5 water treatment plants, 5 hydroelectric facilities, physically went in, looked at the switches, looked at the operation technology information, looked at all of our computer infrastructure, SCADA software systems. They really took a deep dive into who NID is currently. And that was the baseline. We just needed to get a baseline. So out of that, we came with a technical memorandum, which we have. They talked to us before they delivered it. We went back to them and gave suggestions, and we said, no, that's what you think we are, but we're really this. So they made some adjustments, and it was great. Came up with some key findings. Staff preliminary roles, responsibility matrices, etc. So the next task, which we just completed recently, was recommendations for improvement. So they went out to the different districts and utilities in our region, as well as beyond in California, to see what was best practice between merging, identifying, looking at best ways to bring forth operational and informational technology into alignment, into better opportunities for efficiencies, better opportunities for effectiveness, what other districts are doing, what other organizations are doing. So they came with a list of 44 recommendations to us, which was quite a large list to go through. We whittled it down to somewhere around 20-ish, 23 recommendations. We got rid of some. We said, no, we don't need to do that. That's not our culture. That's not our location. That's not what we, it has nothing, it's not effective for our size of organization. So we whittled it down. Next. So we have that task in hand, and that has been sort of reviewed by all staff and management, and we're nodding along and saying, all right, that looks good. It really turned into it came into 4 different project categories, and I'll get to this in a second, sort of under culture and retention. So along employees and what we need in terms of capacity and capability in-house, network and security. So a few projects in terms of what do we want to do to improve our network and security, expense consolidation. So that's what can we make more effective and efficient cost-wise, and then general information applications. So looking at all of our applications and the like. This slide gives an overview of those 20 some odd projects. We based them on 3 different processes. One is timeline. So what did HDR and staff believe were short, mid-range, and long-term timeline. And you can see the years there, short being about in the next 1 to 3 years, 3 to 6 years in mid, and 6 to 10 years in long-term. And you can see sort of a little definition between those. We figured short were considered foundational to NID, like we really, really should be doing this and sort of begin to put budget into these in the next 1 to 3 years. Midterm was flexible based on cost benefits. So we're still doing some analysis. Geez, do we really need to do that? Is it going to be really a capital process that we're going to invest in? What's the benefit that we're going to receive from that? So that's our mid. And then long term, we're more aspirational. If objectives of the district change, we're going to change with those. So those are a little more flexible on the outer end. Let's see. We broke them into critical, moderate, and low priority as well. So we're looking at priority, we're looking at timeline, and we're looking at budget. And at the end of the day, the master plan will combine all 3 of those matrices of these 23 recommendations into a plan for us. So here's the sort of high level culture and retention and network and security projects. 4 of the 5 in culture and retention. So you can see there 1.1 has sort of 1 project associated with it. We leveled it as sort of median timeline, 3 to 6 years. And then 1.2, this is how it's laid out. It's got 2 projects built within it. So we kind of combined 2 individual projects in 1.2. Refine delineation of roles and responsibilities, and institute cross-training programs. So those are things that we can begin doing. We can do that in a short term. It's organizational. So these are some of the high-level things that the recommendations brought forth for us. And now we're breaking them into even further refinement to see where we want to build them into the master plan. I don't need to go deep into this. There's a lot of data behind all this that goes into a lot more information. I don't really want to, some of this has to do, in terms of network and security, there's a lot of very specific technical knowledge that both John and OT staff have around this. Some of it's critical infrastructure that we don't want to go into and really talk about in a public sphere, because it's stuff that it's our SCADA systems, it's our back of the house systems. I'll ask.
What is a flume cable infrastructure? I get almost everything else on here, but I didn't understand. Do we actually have cables in our flumes or attached to our flumes?
Is that a
Several years ago, there was a copper line that was put along one of our flumes.
Uh-huh.
And it continues to break. It's not consistent, not reliable.
Oh, okay.
So there was at one point to replace with fiber to be more reliable.
But wouldn't it be really vulnerable if it was just attached to our flumes?
It's hanging up the side.
It's hanging off the side. I know. It's like
it's a pathway for information and data to monitor the flume capabilities. Is that
when you're monitoring the flume, it's not like
it's communication from one of our powerhouses to another powerhouse, because it's down in a crevice. And it's not easily accessible, or we can't get internet access to it. So we had to provide a connection from one to another.
Physical connection.
Yeah, physical connection.
Got it.
Yeah, that's accurate. Think back to when the flumes were original, very old, 100 years ago. They had telegraph lines that mirrored the flume line. Yeah. So it's leftover remnants of those kinds of ideas and thinking that a solid copper line was run adjacent to the flume. It's very vulnerable to vandalism or others who
people like
have our
copper.
best interest in.
So
part of that project, with medium, it's technical, it's replacement. Either we completely replace the physicalness or we invest in the Starlink side.
I would think something like
those are
there.
That's exactly the kind of reason why we're doing this project, is to highlight these things that
I was
looking
done by that. I mean, I
could
could
like, oh, duh.
the visual of what that was, and I thought, surely I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I wasn't.
Rich, you have a question?
Well, each one of these is to make us more productive and to increase our security.
Right. Got to do it.
Quick question. Of these here, we have technical, process, and organizational. How much of it's in-house? How much of it's going to be consulted?
So that's going to come with our master plan.
Mhm.
I think we're going to have to look at that in the master plan, and some of it's in-house. Some of it is going to say you actually need the capacity in your building. You need an employee to do this work because it's ongoing. Some of it's going to say, well, it's a one-time thing. You're going to do it in about 3 months and you might as well hire the consultant and get it done and out.
So this may increase our
Staffing.
employees, our staffing.
Possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
AI will take.
So, so that's the culture, retention, and network and security sort of buckets. The next slide is expense consolidation and our information and applications buckets. These all add up to about 23 individual projects. The plan is going to take these and sort of build a Gantt chart and build a process so that we can begin to think about, do we need staff at certain levels, and at what point do we need to insert a new staff member or hire a consultant to do this type of work? And we think it's going to cost X number of dollars to do that. So it comes with cost estimate.
Reasonable.
Yep.
Mhm.
HDR has been great to work with. They're fantastic, helping us out move through this. The next slide is just our operational tasks. If you remember, a number of months ago, we came back to the board with an update on operational tasks. We have completed the first one. We have completed the second one. We are just about to complete the third, which is the HMI data historization. And the fourth is complete as well, the full mapping of the network.
Operational, but the slide says optional.
Oh, yeah. They were termed optional at the beginning and then we bought them and now they're
No, they're operational. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
recall this came before the board. What was that, 6 months ago? or-
Yeah.
I remember the.
Yeah. So we're on track to complete the project. Like I said, John and staff and Peter and Chip and operations and hydro staff have been really great to work with and put this thing together and really be responsive to HDR's constant interest in moving this along, and we are too. So we're just going to complete those optional tasks here shortly. Final OT master plan should be done in the coming months. We'll come back to a board presentation somewhere in Q2, maybe early Q3 of 26, so not too much further away with a final understanding of the project. And that's going to bring the roadmap for the development of the future CIP.
Cool. I appreciate all the hard work being
know
done
that's-
here. Just a quick question on it. How much, since we've got 1 to 3 and a 3 to 6 for short-term, midterm, how much of this is built into the rate study that we're working on right now? Any of it? Or is this going to be a potential cost of way?
We've got the escalation of the 4% in the rate study. And
It's already budgeted.
Okay.
again, a lot of this is, it's at our discretion to be able to implement it. HDR is going to give us a roadmap. They're going to give us a plan. We're walking the walk and saying, yes, that's what we need to do. When we get the plan, we're going to really see what the costs are. And then we're going to determine whether or not we can do that at this moment, or if we have to push it out, or, how are we going to do it?
So the escalation in the rate study really does need to think about stuff like this to make sure that we are covered and taken care of properly.
Yeah, and so, in the operational budget specifically for IT, a lot of the IT initiatives are included in the operational budgets. And if they're just a one-time expenditure, it doesn't necessarily, some of these might not necessarily increase the budget, but they might replace something that was previously.
Any other questions?
Just like it surprises as much as Brad does.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll remember that, Earl.
Okay.
And honestly, this was something that was brought forth. IT and OT considerations are always at any organization. They always butt heads at some level because you've got that interface between the two. And so HDR was not surprised when we put out this RFP over a year and a half ago. They've done this type of work before. Other organizations, as the advent of information technology and computer systems just become prevalent in all of our work, and behind the scenes for everybody, iPads to phones to everything else. We had to make a space where we can understand where we are, where we want to be, and build a plan for that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, any more?
Thank you.
anybody else with a
Thank you, John.
Question? No
Thank
more
you.
questions, comments?
Okay. Workshop.
Greg, thank you. Thanks, Greg. John,
Thank you, John.
thank you.
Thank you, John.
Good day.
Okay, I'll roll into the
Roll right in.
4C if that's okay with you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Because I know I stand between you all and lunchtime.
That's the worst spot.
Worst place to be.
No, actually, we're past,
Like Greg in.
we're past.
When he goes fast.
So when you left,
Yes.
you went to Taco Bell and got.
Yeah, I think the GM.
Chris, can you bring up that slide? This is when I get to ensure that we all get lunch paid for.
Go, Greg.
I have a handful of questions I've written down.
Okay, so a couple board meetings ago, we were asked to bring back an update as to where we are with the sales of the surplus properties. Let's see, on the March 12th of last year, we adopted the resolution for surplusing 17 parcels, roughly 147 acres. Of those 17 parcels, 11 were residential homes, 6 were vacant parcels. 3 of those vacant parcels used to have homes on them when we purchased them. They do not anymore. In June 11th of 25, we were authorized a contract with Century 21 to help us with these property sales. And then on August, we appointed Jennifer as the real property negotiator to execute the sales of these homes. And to date, we have sold 5 properties, 4 homes, and 1 vacant parcel. Here is a map of where those homes are, and it's a little small on the screen, but it is the map of all of the district's 17 parcels that were on, there we go. That's nice. That were on the initial 2025 surplus declaration. We have sold, if you see on the, come back out of that, Chris. Let's go to the real meat of it. Many of these properties are along the Magnolia Dog Bar area, as well as one property in Placer County, another property, a few of them over on a residential area in the Woodbury zone. So the gray properties are sold. The document that was presented here is it only shows 4 line items on the right side of your screen under properties sold. And that's because there were 2 properties sold together as one. And it was the far western big rectangles sold stacked on top of each other. That's Magnolia. And then there's another 35-acre Clifford Road ranch property that we used to graze and have grazing opportunities there for a long time.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. But those 2 sold together. We actually bought those 2 properties together at the same time. So it was an opportunity. The person who purchased them wanted those other 35. So it was a great opportunity. This is sort of a high-level overview of how we're trying to determine the value and how we're valuing these homes for sort of the highest and benefit of the district. To the left of the screen with the pink highlight below, it says net income loss. Those are per year dating back to 2020. We did an analysis, and we can go back to 2017, but it didn't click on the screen very well. So back 5 years, you can see the total net benefit or loss that the district has operated these homes in. And these are just the homes. These are not the vacant properties. You can see that all in all, most years we've had a total operational gain of about $600,000 by managing these properties. That's rent. That's income of rent on a monthly basis. And then that's expenses that we've paid in order to keep those houses in a livable health and safety position. Now, remember, if you go back even to the last part of 2024, we're managing these homes to health and safety standards. We're not managing them as a long-term investment, right? And so that sort of flips us over to the second right side of this slide, which is now we're talking about what is the right sale price for these houses? Is it based on, I mean, clearly it's based on market rate, but what do we price the house at before we even put it out on the market? And that's, a function of what we bought it at versus what we've, sort of, so some of these you can see that we put the sale price somewhat similar or a little below what we bought it at. It's because of the nature of the condition of the house. Sort of what we knew needed to be done, needed to be fixed, pest inspections, et cetera. And so you can see just at the end of the column G at the end is just an analysis of per house what we received in profit and loss over the last 5 years on it, minus the net income to NID that when we sold it for. That's inclusive of seller fees, which we have to pay. And you can see per house historical value that we've received on that particular property. Total with these 4 homes, 5 properties, we're roughly about $32,000 positive. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're, making money on the sale of these homes.
No, you're not.
Overall, what I didn't have on this slide is of these 17 parcels, we roughly spent a little over $6 million over the course of a handful of years between 2012 and 2018. Current sales to date after of net proceeds, NID's received about 1.3 million of the sales proceeds to date. And so that delta, something that we might have to kind of make up for between now and the end of the rest of the homes and properties for sales, around 4.7 million that we're looking at. So that's sort of the driving factor of how we're analyzing and thinking about how to sell these and what we need to make up for. Now, remember, all of those net proceeds that we receive will go directly into Fund 10, into our Fund 10 for what we need to use it for.
I see that we have roughly $50,000 a year in staff time.
Yeah.
Is that going to drop off substantially, or is that going to keep up until we get the last one sold?
It'll drop off. It's been dropping off as we've sold the houses and as we don't have rental. Some of that has to do with it's my time, it's other staff time. We've sent out people to do fixes and repairs and some other things. We're gonna. It's a lot of finance staff time in terms of when we get our property manager monthly statements, they're allocating what we have in the bank versus what they owe us. And so it's a very conservative number. I don't know if I think it's a high valuation, but it's still total, over 5 years, it's roughly $400,000. And now remember, that's total staff time. That's not just wages, but it's benefits and it's staff combined. Yeah, it's fully weighted.
And I understand that we have security precautions on all the ones that have not sold yet. So we know they're safe and secure and they're not going to be vandalized.
A different record.
These we
Doors are locked.
we are, yes. They have doors, they have roofs. We do have cameras at a couple of them that we've had some problems with. We go back by and check on them. We're thinking of putting some actual, depending on how long we hold these things, we may put in some security systems. Some of the problem with security systems is they also need internet capability, which they don't have. They do all have power associated with them, so we're paying for a monthly power bill. But yes, we are doing our best to ensure, and we're moving, and we've got enough eyes on them right now to see that we're paying attention to them.
I'm just looking, try to get rid of that long-term cost that we've had, that
Mhm.
annual cost. each
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
What's going to take to get to that point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a question, Greg. It was R1, the two properties you mentioned earlier, the was R1 is the first one on the list.
Yeah.
Was that the vacant property without a house?
No.
So
That
it's not on here?
Clifford is not on there. It is not. The one with the property associated with it is R8.
Okay. Then my question is, what happened? Was R1 vacant from 20, it has a negative income, 22, 23?
Yes, it has been.
It was vacant.
It has been vacant. Well,
Was it vacant? Was that the one that was not in very good shape?
we spent a lot of money on fixing it up. We had to remove a bunch of, we evicted the tenant. There was some leftover of COVID money, and we had to write off their rental, which we have since
That's right.
we're after them with, what's that called? Collections. But yes, and then they just left. They left a couple cars,
Mhm.
an RV, trash. I mean, it's been a lot to fix that thing up, but we fixed it up to the place where we sold it, which was great. So some nice happy families live in there happily.
It's good.
I like that. I like happy.
Yeah, me too.
Good job. Okay.
So still going. These are still in process. Winter's tough right now to sell, so we're looking forward to spring and summertime getting these.
Yep.
Hopefully on off the market before the end of the year.
Thank you. I appreciate getting that update.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question about that? Comment? All right. I think that concludes our agenda for today. That would.
DM
be,
report, board reports.
Yep, didn't make 11:45, but close.
You're not done.
We're not done. We're going.
GM report, board report.
GM report and
GM report, yes.
I
Make
just
it
have,
longer, then you can buy us lunch.
okay, I can talk really, really fast. So we had the Bay Delta hearing. I did have the opportunity to go down and provide comments, as well as Director Heck in support of the Healthy Rivers Landscape Program. So we will see. They're looking to vote when? October? They say October. We'll see.
Say October.
We had the PCWA NID 2x2 meeting, which I thought went really well. We discussed a number of items, including the Healthy Rivers and Landscape. We discussed their Ophir treated water plant expansion, canal systems in general. Nice meeting. And then I did see farm tours coming up for Nevada County. So Chris will be reaching out to see if anyone wants to sign
I think
up.
she's got us. 4 of
Got
us
us,
are already signed up.
4 of you already signed up. Good. And then we're going to do a real brief water supply update because we did do the snow survey, which if you saw, it wasn't great. It was 48% of average, but there is good weather.
News on the horizon.
Yeah, next week.
Chip has got his skis out.
He has his snow socks on, so that's good.
And his,
All right, let's get to motoring through this. It's almost lunchtime.
God.
I know.
Four scores and 7 years.
Slide, Chip.
One
Slide. That's all she's giving you.
Right. Okay. We're full. Check it out.
We're full,
We've
yes.
got lots of rain coming, not so much last month. We're still at 109%, so we're okay. We're still full. We're spilling everywhere. This is the bleak slide. The blue bars are our average snowpack for this time of year. The green is what we actually have on the ground, which is not great. Statewide, it's pretty bleak as well. Central Sierra, which is what we're included in, is only at 52% of average for this time of year. And on a slide, this is what it looks like. So it's the red line there that you see. Not great.
Oh, my.
Yeah. But as you all have seen, all the reservoirs across the state are full. Drought monitor hasn't really changed, but this is the good news. 8 to 14 day temperature is cold and wet. So that's good. We'll look forward to that. And that's all I had. Woo!
Well done, Chip. Jen, you should buy his lunch.
I know. I was going to say, we do have favorite department heads. I'm not naming any names, but
And directors.
Okay,
I haven't picked that one yet.
that concludes your report.
It does, President Beerwagon. Thank you.
Much. I had a question about PCWA. Are they building the treatment plant over by Colfax? You know?
Oh.
Is that them? Yeah, that's right there at Highway 174 and
Oh, yes,
Office
that's
Drive?
Shady Glen.
Shady
Yeah.
Glen. Okay, just curious. Director's reports. Who wants to go first? Rich?
Yeah. 1 week, February 18th, 3 to 5 at the Love Building will be a public meeting for the Resilience Project. And so it's a group dedicated to do projects and help each other out to get grant money.
Thank you, Rich. Director Fowler.
So I checked my rain gauge this morning. We're at 14 hundredths of an inch, which is exactly the same as it was at our last meeting.
Yes.
But I expect that it's significantly more by now, and by tomorrow morning or in the next 10 days, I expect that to climb pretty good. So I just thought that was funny that we were right at 14 hundredths. I attended the Farm Bureau meeting. I presented Director Johansson's report. He submitted a written report, but it's pretty dry, and I added some Rich Johansson color that I thought really brought it up to his level. Anyways, the 2x2 meeting with PCWA, Earl and I were attended. Jennifer touched on it. Similar opportunities and dilemmas, and it's useful to meet with them and kind of see how they negotiate this. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Director Stevens.
Basically what he said. It was a very informative meeting as far as PCWA and NID. I really enjoy them. I got to learn a lot about the issues they're involved with, and some of them are similar. Some of them are totally different. So it's kind of nice to see that. And Chip's going to be presenting the next one with the canals for us, which is great. And we're going to go get to have a tour.
Yeah, field trip.
Field
Wait,
trip.
I'm still waiting.
We're going to.
This is a special PCWA field trip.
Oh, okay, bummer.
Yeah.
All right,
They're going to take you on a field.
It takes, yeah.
cool.
Pump station,
Oh, there you go.
which you might be able to go, anyone else could probably go. It is a public meeting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, don't vote on anything. We can talk to each other. No, we can't.
Not business.
Well,
You could say
We
hi.
don't do that.
yeah,
You
well,
just can't talk NID business.
well, no, we wouldn't. Okay, never mind. Yeah, do you have a report?
Well, I do. And I'm really proud of what I got to do in those last couple of weeks. So I'm going to take an extra minute here. I did go to the state board and gave testimony in favor of the Healthy Rivers, and that was cool. And I understand it was well received. So that was good. I represented NID well. Then I did also meet with Congressman Ami Bera on that very same day, actually. And he, I was fortunate to be placed next to him at the luncheon. And so I was able to spend a fair bit of time talking to him about NID. He knows very little, if nothing, about water systems and agriculture. So I spent a lot of time talking to him about how much our agricultural community brings in terms of economic development into our region, how important our water systems are, invited him, which he immediately took us up on, to do a tour of our water system. And it turns out his chief of staff comes up here all the time to Scotts Flat. So it was a big, nice buy-in, and Jen is going to put it all together for these folks. Let's see. Lastly, lots of constituent stuff, which I won't bore you with, but good stuff. And then lastly, I was elevated or asked to be another voting member on LAFCO, and I'm part of their budget committee, so I'm doing that. So I'm a busy person. Thank you.
Great, and I have no reports. Thank you for keeping it short.
All right.
With that, well, the meeting's adjourned.
12:05.
Thank you.